State of the franchise is back, and something tells me this is going to be a state of the franchise for the books after the San Francisco 49ers. Let me say this really calmly dominated the Eagles, and we're going to talk about it all with my guy, Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. Let's get into it all right now. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. It's one of the best times of the week when the Sourdough Squad and the Spicy Squad come together for the State of the Franchise episode. Mr. Aponte, how, just like we pretty much start off every show with, it's a vibe check, right? How are the vibes today?
Uh, you know, life gets hard sometimes, but you know what's not hard? Talking about the San Francisco 49ers right now. And
It's super easy.
it's super easy to talk about this team right now. Best in the world. Argue with your mama. It's just a lot of fun, like right now. Again, week to week league, but today on December 6th, best in the world. And the goal is to be the best in the world in February as well. But you gotta win each week and get there. But right now, best in the world. No better feeling. Feels great.
It feels so good because we spent so much of this year just talking about this Eagles game. I
Right.
mean, whether we wanted to, whether we didn't want to, whether we had to, whether we had to do response videos, whatever it is, like all the talk, all the stuff, obviously, it all starts with Brock Purdy going down in the NFC Championship game. And that's what it was. And that whole situation with the talk part of it, what they were saying was true in the sense of we believed in ourselves. And if we had a quarterback, we think we would have dog walked y'all. And well, guess what? Just like Hassan Reddick said, well, you guys get another opportunity to come line it up and show us what you're about. And the San Francisco 49ers took it to another level. Jason, they showed up in all black and it wasn't even planned.
Planned. Nope.
That's the craziest part about
hmm
hearing Trent Williams, um, Fred Warner on his
Chase Young.
podcast,
Chase Young came out like
Chase
dressed like that
Young,
too.
Debo, all black, and they were both of them have talked about it, Trent and Fred, and they're like, we didn't even plan this. This wasn't a like group text where like, hey, everyone wear black today. It was a mentality, it was a mindset that they went into this game, and boy, did they deliver, Jason.
Yeah, and that just goes to show you that this entire team was locked in on making sure that they made a statement on Sunday. And we talked about that throughout the entire week about this is important to let the Eagles know. One, not only did we say what we said in the offseason, but we could back it up. This was very much a put up or shut up game. And shout out to Debo Samuel. I have many thoughts about Debo Samuel, and I'm sure we'll talk about him in a little bit. But this was the entire team's mentality at this point. Like they're looking at this game like we have something to prove. We want to show something. And the Eagles, they quite frankly really couldn't do anything about it. There was maybe like the first quarter in which it maybe felt a little shaky, but it was still only 6-0, meaning a touchdown immediately gives you the lead. And then after that, it was just the avalanche that the 49ers, the 49ers have not won a grimy game yet. But when they start rolling, it's an avalanche. And it doesn't matter who's the opponent, right? Like you just get rolled on. Like if they start rolling, you're gonna get blown out. I think that is impressive in its own right. Obviously, you kind of want to see the 49ers win games that are a little bit closer, especially in a hostile environment like Philadelphia. But man, did it feel good to blow the doors off them, man. That stadium was quiet as a mouse. They left early. They had nothing to say. They talked all that jazz, and you haven't heard a thing from them. I'm just more concerned, like, because we're in the season of giving, right? It's Christmas time, it's December, you want to be conscious of other people, your fellow man. I'm just worried about Philadelphia Eagles fans because I haven't seen any of them. They were in a chat talking crazy. They were in a chat telling us about fly Eagles fly. We can't wait to blow you out. Da, 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 da. Where like they're right now, the Eagles fans are as real as Rocky Balboa. Like there's can we talk about that just for a little bit more? Like I've been cooking on that all week. Like
please go off on that because
yeah.
people 49er fans were tripping off that this week.
Don't touch Rocky. Rocky's not real. He's not a real person. He lost 23 fights in a fictional world. 23 fights. Like what are we worried about? Rocky Balboa is not even really a good fighter. He lost the first fight to Apollo Creed. I don't know if you guys remember that. But it's crazy. Joe Frazier is an actual Philadelphia boxer, and they erected a statue of a fictional character. Sylvester Stallone's real. Rocky Balboa is not. But don't touch Rocky. Oh, God, don't run up the stairs. Who cares? Your team is going to go out there and put it on the line on the field. You touching Rocky or running up the stairs has nothing to do with any of that. But I just find it hilarious that, like, the Eagles fans popped all that mess all offseason, all week, and all the chats. They have been absolutely ghost. I haven't seen one Eagles fan. I will say this. During Cowboys week, whenever that is, the Cowboys fans pull up. Some of them actually pull back up and say, hey, listen, you were right. You got that off. Like, here's like, I respect that. We have Rams fans that show up and they stick around. I respect that. Don Burr is a staple of our 49ers YouTube. He's a Lions fan. But I have no respect for the Eagles fans that really went crazy that entire week and then just didn't say anything. And one more thing, Eagles fans, if you want to use the argument that the 49ers are celebrating like this is the Super Bowl, I would argue, look at your jerk face coach face. Like he's got a jerk face. After you guys beat the Kansas City Chiefs, high-fiving and running around the stadium like that was your Super Bowl. It's so about funny. That, Chiefs? It's I don't hear nothing anymore. It's so funny how this completely changed and flipped. Now, this game doesn't mean anything, but, you beat the Kansas City Chiefs in case a victory lap around the stadium like you just won the Olympics. Nah, man, you can't have it both ways. And then it was so great to see Nick Sirianni say sorry to Kyle Shanahan. Yeah, say sorry. Say sorry. Say sorry to Daddy. Say sorry.
Apologize. No, but to sum up pretty much everything that you're saying, it's like, yeah, a lot of the Eagles fan base is full of, for lack of a better term, bozos. Just a bunch of bozos. And that's I think part of the best part of it is they've had to wear it. They take pride in their nasty behavior and flipping off the bird. Like, dude, when I went to the NFC Championship game last year in Philadelphia, I've never seen so many middle fingers in my life. It was unbelievable. The level of chirping that happened in that game, pre-game, just it's nonstop. Like, hey, if that's your vibe, I respect it. Whatever. Do you. Be you.
Keep it. But I mean, banter is one thing. Keep it respectful, though. Like, don't.
Of course. Yeah. They go beyond they go.
Of course they do.
Disrespect.
No, but they do that when they feel that their team was better because they weren't like that in 2021 when the Niners went in there and beat them. None of them were talking like that. Because they didn't believe in the team yet.
Right. And so they're 10-1 in this game. They think they've got all the juice. They still think the 49ers are posers, and the 49ers go in back to the link. And, oh, my dude, Jason, it was – I'm trying to, part of, the human element is comparison, right? We tend to compare certain things. And so I'm thinking well, this is by far way better than the Dallas game. And, I enjoyed that win, that blowout, all the talk, all that stuff. That was phenomenal. And I'm just thinking back, I'm obviously it wasn't like a close game. Like you talked about, we blew them out. But I mean, just the monkey off the back vibes, just being able to kind of break through that stigma, that cloud that kind of has been hanging over our head for almost a year. It just feels cathartic. Like that. I think that's the word that I just keep coming back to. It's and I think one of the things too is one of the talking points that I hear heading into the Seahawks, and we'll talk about the Seahawks in a little bit, but it's just the letdowns coming potentially. And, I think the 49ers, after that Dallas game. That's part of the reason why a lot of people are associating like, oh, they went so they put so much emotion and energy into this game that a letdown could be coming. I don't think it's going to happen. I really do believe that after that Dallas game, that high and then the lows of that month after, I talked about this on a show previously. I think that month of losing and having an entire bye week to sit on it is going to be the adversity that they needed to go through to ensure that this will never happen again. And I think this energy is going to continue all the way till they get to the Super Bowl. Like that's why, like, sometimes, adversity sucks, and you're sometimes you're sitting there like, why are we going through this? Why is this happening? Whether in life, whether in your favorite team, whatever. But I really do think that was a blessing in disguise. And everyone got better. Everyone pushed the limit. Everyone pushed the envelope. And I think it all kind of culminated. Obviously, we've seen it against the Jags, but this game against the Eagles, man, talk about a release. They unloaded on that Eagles team, man. It was beautiful to watch.
And it was just a buildup. It's kind of what you were saying. It's been a buildup because you're not going to get the NFC Championship back with this win. You're not even going to get into the number 1 seed. Obviously, you get a little bit closer, and it was right there in front of you. But it is kind of like this is really what we thought was going to happen. And let's look at this Eagles defense compared to last season, because I think that's kind of where we'll find the answer. So you trade for Kevin Byard, which I thought was a phenomenal trade. I think the world of Kevin Byard. I think he's great. Bradbury's still there, Slay's still there. Obviously, Debo was talking about them. On the defensive line, you lose Javon Hargrave, but Jalen Carter's a hooper. And they still have dogs, right? Fletcher Cox is still a dog. Brandon Graham's still really good as well too. This defense is not the same defense from last year. Now, does it have to do with the fact that Desai is now their defensive coordinator? Does it have to do with the fact that maybe some of their studs have kind of taken a step back? And obviously, losing Javon Hargrave isn't going to be an easy pill to swallow. But at the same time, this was my contention the entire week. It's like, sure, your record's 10-1, but the last 12 quarters that you've put on tape have not been anywhere near the level that the 49ers have. The 49ers in 12 quarters have put so much more on tape than they have. They have been winning games because, for lack of a better response or term, the other team didn't execute. And if they execute in a crucial moment, one play here, one play there, the Eagles have lost to Kansas City and Buffalo. And almost losses don't count, right? Like, they don't count. I understand that part. But it does contextualize why so many people were on the 49ers, because the 49ers have been playing better football overall. 4 quarters. They've been just over 4 quarters for the last 3 games, beating the hell out of teams. The Eagles have been winning games based on the ineptitude of other teams. And that's kind of where the confidence around the 49ers grows, because you're like, hey, you guys have won games and you found ways to win grimy games, which I actually applaud, because things are never going to go right all the time for you. But my goodness, the San Francisco 49ers are in here rolling and healthy and just doing what they want. So what did you think was going to happen going into this game? Did you think that your defense, who had been on the field for 140 snaps the last 2 weeks, did you think that they were going to be built to slow down an offense that, when they get rolling, nobody really can at this point? So yeah, I think a lot of that stuff was there because the 10-1 record is shiny and nice, and everyone loves, winning. The only thing that covers everything up is winning.
Really? People like winning?
Oh. People like winning. The only thing that covers everything up is just hashtag analysis, right? I'm really going deep dive.
That's from last week, remember?
Yeah, hashtag analysis right here. This is the deep diving stuff. But in the way that they've been winning, you still see those major flaws. You still see a team on offense that's still it's either Jalen Hurts isn't fully healthy. I don't understand their game plan sometimes, right? It just felt like Jalen Hurts is just hanging out back there, like, oh, I'm gonna roll out here, throw it down the field. He's just kind of hanging out back there, and he just
the majority of their success was on rollouts, like him bailing out of the pocket.
Right, he can't go through progressions, right? And I think it was the great Robbie Gould that said, make Jalen Hurts play from the pocket and you can beat him. Maybe kickers do know something. But it's just kind of weird to me because the Eagles haven't really dominated anybody, put anything on tape. They just found a way to win at the last
Right.
moment or because of the other team. The 49ers are just straight. When they win, they're rolling on you for 4 quarters and they just beat you into submission. That's the difference between these two teams right now.
Yeah, and we talked about that last week, right? We talked about the grittiness of them and what they bring to the table and their ability to just find ways to win. That's a trait that a lot of championship teams have, right? Like it might not be the prettiest, but if you can just figure out how to get it done in the end, that's ultimately all that matters, right? Because at the end of the year, all people are looking at is your win-loss and are you in the playoffs, are you not, where are you seated, and how are you going to move forward? But I think you talked about it kind of at the beginning, where the Eagles defense actually started out as hot as can be outside of forcing turnovers. The 49ers had 2 consecutive drives where they go 3 and out. And I think it was 6 incompletions in a row, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken. And what I do like, although it was an absolute butt whooping when you look at the end and the after the game, I do appreciate that the 49ers were on the road back in Philly and they started out probably the worst way you could have on offense in regards to just not doing anything. I mean, through the first quarter, right? They had negative yardage, like, so the San Francisco 40, because it was the Eagles were had 2 scoring drives, right? Where they only scored 6 points, but they were able to milk the clock. And so the game really started about as poorly as you could have thought for the offense. And what I do really like about that is the fact that when it's all said and done, this offense had -6 yards through the first quarter. This game was 42-19 in the end. And for me, that is looking in the face of adversity. That's having to work through, like, again, think of all the things that we started the show talking about that's been hanging over their head, and to get back to that spot. And in the first quarter, the offense can't do anything, and they have negative yardage. And that when you look 2 quarters later, they go on a 6 touchdown in a row, 6 touchdown drives in a row. Dude, I
Could have
love
been
it. I
7,
think,
but Sam Darnold went in to just kneel the ball also.
come on, Sam. But honestly, like, I love that that is part of the story, right? We've talked about the blowout, but I do appreciate that the offense really started in a bad spot where I was concerned. I don't know how you were feeling
Uh,
about the offense specifically in those
right.
2 drives, but I was like, "Oh no."
Well, so for me, I think it boils down to kind of what everybody was talking about what they wanted to do against the Eagles, which was throw the football. I think the chatter all offseason and going into this game was you're going to be able to throw the football on these linebackers, on Bradbury, even Darius Slay. You're going to be able to throw the football. So having that knowledge and knowing what was talked about all off season, it seemed like Kyle was intent on doing that because he has all the confidence in the world of Brock, and he has all the confidence in the world that his offense is going to be able to get guys wide open, right? So that's what I think you kind of saw in those first 2 drives because everyone's always screaming like run the ball, but we weren't
I
talking
was
about
screaming it.
running. We weren't talking about running the ball against San Francisco against Philadelphia in the offseason. We were talking about Debo Samuel calling Bradbury trash and saying we would throw the football on you. This is how you beat them, right? So a little bit of that was Kyle understanding all that and saying, listen, we're going to scheme it up and throw the football on them. We're going to get down there. The problem is that when those scripted plays don't work, people get into a panic and they start to say, well, what are you doing? Well, it's probably gathering information because once those scripted plays went out the window and you got done with your first 2, because the first 2 drives are largely scripted, it's about 24, 25 plays from Kyle that are scripted. He's already gathered enough information to say, okay, you're going to overcommit to the run, reverse. Okay, you want to bring a pass rusher in, we're going to chip with Kittle, and then we're going to like have him leak out and hit him with a pass. Like all of that stuff. And I understand emotions are high. I'm not going to tell anyone how to fan or anything like that. Like emotions are high during a game that you have to have this game because of 49er fans and the way that they've viewed how the NFC Championship went. I get it.
Live tweeting a game is a dangerous,
It's dangerous.
game.
It's dangerous. So,
because you're
dude,
so emotional in the like microcosm of the moment, and that's not how football is played. So
at
it's
all.
it's a very dangerous. I've caught myself like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say that, or I've tweeted something. I was
I
oops.
when I'm tweeting during a game, I try to tweet matter of fact things, not opinions, because those opinions can be flipped in a minute. I mean, I literally saw tweets.
100%.
Oh, here goes Kyle Shanahan again in a big game, not doing anything. Yeah.
Oh, I saw fire Kyle Shanahan tweets early.
Look how dumb that sounds. Look how dumb that looks after the first 2 drives, and they score every single time after. Oh my God, run the football. You think Kyle's looking at his phone and saying, wow, Niners fan 34789 said I should run the football. Maybe I should. Do you understand that there's like a way to think about things, and logically they knew that they wanted to throw the football on them, and then they eventually did it, but that's how they wanted to come out. It doesn't matter about like this whole like run the football thing. That's not the plan when their weakness is in the secondary. So it didn't work, but they gathered enough information, and then they started hitting them every which way. And that's the thing. It's like, I want to preach patience to fans, because I understand you're watching the game, you got an adult beverage in your hand, emotions are high. You're probably watching with a bunch of people talking crazy to you. You know, if they're not 49ers fans, about like, oh, look at your team not doing anything. I get it. Emotions are high, but let's slow down. And we've seen this year after year, right? Fire DeMeco Ryans. Fire Robert Saleh, fire Steve Wilks. And now that Steve Wilks stuff is completely out the window, right? Remember, we got to fire our defensive coordinator halfway through the season, and we've got to get someone else in here. That is completely put to bed. So again, the emotions that you have are real, but please, like, let's reel it in a little bit. Like, let's just reel it in and wait to see what happens, because those tweets age more poorly than anything.
And it's funny because last week I was talking about how I wanted the 49ers to start off running the football. I was one of those guys tweeting, why aren't we running the football? And then sure enough, Jason, what did they do? They passed to set up the run once they were able, like it was the first down to Ayuk on the right sideline that got the drive finally going when they got the ball and got the opportunity. And, you know, you were right on how you saw Kyle needing to attack that defense. And you said it was through the air. I was like, I want to get the run game established. I want to get the dogs off. I want to do this. I want to do that. Kyle Shanahan, I want to give him some flowers. Watching the tape back, that might have been the most Kyle Shanahan-est game I have ever seen. He was in his Duffy. Absolutely had the Eagles defense completely out of sorts. It was one of the few games where I'm like, damn Kyle, because it was pre-snap motion. It was all the I saw one play where they had, I think, a pre-snap motion to the left. They brought someone around on the right.
All right,
they had Mitchell going up the middle. I think it was one of the touchdown plays or one of the kids. Like, I can't remember there because there's like 15 of them.
I remember the one you're talking about. I think what's his name? Ted Gwynn, who's a really good film guy. If you guys don't follow him on Twitter, he posted it. So it's Debo on an orbit motion. He comes across the formation, and then the linebacker's following and says, "Oh, he's not getting the ball because the ball wasn't snapped and they didn't just flip it." And then he gets behind Brock and he starts to go, okay, there's the ball. But by the time he takes 2 steps that way, George Kittle's whizzing behind him and the window's open for the throw, and it ends up being a big gain. It's like the gravity of all the motion and everything is fine. It doesn't work as well with Ray McCloud, but it works great with Deebo Samuel because you're so worried about it. So I think that's the play you're talking about.
Yeah. There was like I said, there was like, I want to say close upwards of like probably 8 to 10 where I'm like, my goodness, Kyle's absolutely in his bag with what he's trying to do. And like, obviously we look at all the players and what they do on the field, but that was really one of those signature Kyle Shanahan games where his fingerprints were all over the success of that offense. And it was something that I was like, you're watching the tape and you're just like, my goodness, they didn't know what to do because we know what Kyle does, right? He takes advantage of the defense's keys. So he knows their rules. And so everything that he does is based on going against their rules. And then if they go outside of their rules to make adjustments, guess what? He just takes advantage of what they thought they should do in the first place. It's brilliant. and he had them on the ropes. Like we talked about this being potentially, at least I talked about it being potentially like a 12 round heavyweight bout.
That's what I thought it would
Bro,
be.
he knocked them off. Like they won the first round. They won maybe the first 2 rounds. After that, bro, he was dropping haymakers.
That was Drago against Apollo.
That
was Drago against Apollo. Throw the towel! Throw the damn towel! That's what that was. And throw the damn towel! That's exactly what that was. That was Drago against Apollo.
Yeah,
I mean, we're gonna keep on with the Rocky puns because I think it's just so funny, man.
Absolutely. So obviously, a big part of this is just kind of going through the game, giving the guys their flowers. I wanted to start kind of with Kyle Shanahan because he was the engine that, like, obviously his plays, his designs, the timing in which he called them. I love that God, Jason, do you remember the discourse after the NFC Championship game? How people were freaking out about how Kyle left Hassan Reddick unblocked or blocked him with a tight end and all those different types of things. And I just remember going back and forth like, man, this is his scheme. Like, this is so normal.
He's done it 10 out of 10 times before.
It just happened to be the worst case scenario that happened. And everyone's like, no, this is Kyle. This is blasphemous.
How could you use the backup tight end to block? He's done it 9 other times and you didn't notice it at all. It ended up being a big play, but nobody ever had any uproar about that. It was just because the play ended up being completed. It's like literally a 1 in a 10 shot that it would have destroyed Brock's elbow and ended the game. Like, he's done it a million times and it's on film.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe one of the Deebo Samuel end around touchdowns, they didn't touch Hassan Reddick. And Hassan Reddick was like, oh,
that's the point.
Where am I going?
It's to leave you unblocked. It's to leave you unblocked, and you're like, wait a minute, why are they leaving me unblocked? And by the time you start thinking, the ball's already past you. Like, it's much deeper than whatever it is you think, right? Like, you're sitting there and you're just like, why would you leave Tyler Kroft on Hassan Reddick? But what you haven't noticed is that it's worked 7-8 times in this past season. Like, and Kyle's run that like his entire time,
all the time.
It just happened to be in that moment, one of the worst plays. I never understood the outrage of that. Unless you're just upset that the quarterback got injured, and it's just like, dude, that was probably worst case scenario.
It was, right?
It was fluky. It was fluky.
They're really upset that Brock got hurt because we know that ultimately that was the difference in the game. Because just like we saw, without the quarterback, 49ers lost 31-7. With Brock, they go 42-19, absolutely demolish. And I have it right here, so why not? This is the play that we were talking about. It'll be fun to watch. Hassan Reddick kind of in no man's land, not getting touched
in his own head.
And the San Francisco 49ers just getting after him. And so, like, what we were talking about was Kyle being in his bag, right? First off, you're going to see George Kittle basically do like a half motion. He gets his eyes on the linebacker. Are they following me? Nope, they're not. So we understand what type of coverage we're going to get based on that look, right? Then they bring Ayuk across the formation.
Now everybody's moving.
And look at the linebackers. Look at the safeties. Then you get Kittle back across the formation. This could be a handoff to Mitchell up the
and they've
middle.
got numbers on that side. They could. They could
have ran that.
If they would have run that, he would have had a nice gain, maybe even a touchdown.
Exactly. And then here is Deebo. Oh, look, Hassan Reddick unblocked in a blender.
See ya, pal. I wonder, what about Boo-Hoos? What happened to Boo-Hoos? Where's the ball? Where is it? Where is it? Who's got it?
I can't see. I'm blind. And then you have George Kittle doing George Kittle things, getting blocks, and Deebo Samuel scoring touchdowns.
Too easy.
That mess.
Too easy. It's the little stuff like that is when everyone's like, well, what makes Kyle a genius, right? It's that little stuff right there. Like, you see George Kittle, he's identifying the coverage with his motion, and that's really what Kyle Juszczyk is there for as well, too. That's why if you see him go in motion and nobody follows him, then that's kind of the way they identify. And then it's just, you have so many weapons, you have so many things that you need to pay attention to. Okay, is this a handoff to Mitchell? Is this one of those throwbacks to Kittle? Are they running play action? By the time you're trying to register all that, you're not playing fast and you're not just reacting. You're not being proactive. You're trying to react. And when you react, by the time you figure out what's going on, like Hassan Reddick did, you're already on skates the other way, and Deebo Samuel's past you. And it's the little stuff like that. Wait, I got him. Wait, where is he? Who's got the ball? Like, that's the thing. And then you've got to give credit to Brock as well too, because he sells it so well. He sells it so well. Like it's hard. Like the camera gets faked out at times. But imagine being someone who's trying to react and you're already in your head like, oh God, here comes the motion. What do we do? And again, this is the gravity that Deebo has, that it makes it so hard to key in on anything, because you are way more nervous when Deebo Samuel is in motion than you are when Ray McCloud. And I've got a strong take about Deebo Samuel in this offense. He's the heartbeat of this team. This team goes the way that he goes. Him just being on the field and causing that attention, even if he doesn't have a big game, even if he's not really touching the ball a lot, those motions you've got to respect much more than if it's Ray McCloud or if it's someone else going in that direction. You have to watch him so much, because if he has the ball in his hands, he's so explosive that it just opens everything else up. This offense, I wrote an article about it too. Like I did the splits with Deebo, without Deebo, and I posted his numbers, right? His numbers are modest for, 2021 Deebo, who had the team in the backpack. But this team goes as he does. The attitude flows through them, the physicality flows from him, and everything, and this whole team gets it. But that little motion and that stuff, like that little stuff right there, and the attention that it brings to it, it opens things up for everyone else. Christian McCaffrey is having an incredible season. He's on pace for 2,000 scrimmage yards. But I will stand 10 toes and on business that this team needs Deebo Samuel every single week, and he is such a force in terms of attention and gravity that you really can't quantify it, other than like this team just takes it to another level when he's on the field.
Dude, Deebo proved you so right this week. It's unbelievable, because we talked about this last week, right? We kind of I was like, which wide receiver is more important, Ayuk or Deebo? And I was like, it was a hard question. I wasn't definitive at all. I was on the fence per usual, but it was like, I was like, I'm leaning Ayuk. And you're like, I think it's Deebo.
Yeah.
And when you watched that game plan, and just like you discuss, the defense is so clued in on him when he's on the field, because he can get the ball behind the line of scrimmage, that it's almost like they freak out when he goes into to run a route or something. Like they're like, obviously they're like, oh, Deebo's on the move again behind the line of scrimmage. And that orbit motion thing that they were doing, it was like a reverse orbit motion. I don't even know what to call it, where he's coming across in front of the formation and then dips back around. Dude, Kyle had them in hell with that. They did not know how to respond to it. And I love what Nick Bosa said today. He said, I hope Dallas watched that tape, because we showed the recipe for how to cook those birds the right way.
Bradley exposed?
Oh, they got so exposed.
Is that the word?
They got exposed so bad.
Exposed? Oh, baby.
It's not like, oh, we beat you by 10 points, you got exposed. No, they got exposed.
And
every weakness got exposed.
And all those yards that Jalen Hurts threw for was when the game was well out of reach, right? Like you're like, oh, AJ Brown had 100, whatever it was. Dude, that game was over. They were just everything that the 49ers wanted to do on defense was keep everything in front of them and not allow big explosives. Okay, like we'll give you, the quick throws, and we'll give you some of that, right? Like, but other than that, you're not going to get any explosive plays over us. And like that's the thing, is like Jalen Hurts was pressured a ton. But so many of those pressures are due to the secondary. They were just due to the secondary. There was nothing there for him to get to. So he just moved around and he just got outside the pocket and just tried to, either throw it away or just hope that somebody comes open. But there was nothing there for him. And I think, again, going back to kind of the criticism on Hurts, is make him read the field, make him go through progressions. Everything that they were dialing up last season is based on RPO. And it's based on quick throws and a definitive one read. It's not 1, 2, 3. It's, okay, you can put the ball in the belly, but if you think that you have the matchup, then pull it out and throw it. If not, just hand that thing off, or if not, take off. Like the options that they give him are not in progressions. They're in the run game. And if the throw's not there, then don't take it. We trust your legs. Everything, that's it. And that's the way that they created those throws for him. He's not a 1, 2, 3 quarterback. And that doesn't mean that he's not a good quarterback. but that's how you are supposed to attack him. Like, you have to make sure that you keep him contained. You're not
Yep.
allowing him to kill you on third down with his legs. You don't want to get them in 4th and 1 because they're going to go with that stupid tush push that even Marcus Mariota made work when he was in the game. But from the pocket, that's where you want Jalen Hurts to operate, and you want to make him go through those progressions because he has a difficult time with it.
Yeah, when you allow Jalen Hurts to get outside the pocket, he is dangerous. He had a phenomenal throw. His touchdown to Devonta at the end of the game was a phenomenal throw. It was a little too late, but yeah, you could see him having struggles within the pocket. And then what was really cool about it is the defensive line was forcing him up into the pocket because they were getting around the corner with the speed rush, and they forced him into guys like Kinlaw, who had 2 sacks, into Clyde Davis.
Can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah,
can we talk about that real quick? I'm like 93.
We talk about anything.
No, I'm like 93. Who on earth?
Who's that?
Yeah, I'm like, it just happened
DJ
to be his
Jones?
first game. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, when did DJ Jones come back? It's just funny, like, you know, again, we know who Kalia Davis is, but man, it's crazy to see him show out like in his first game. Oh my God. Yeah, I think about it. No, you know what's funny is I love bouncing ideas off what I think the play is. And there was a play up there. I think it was the one where Kittle kind of chipped a little bit and then they threw the ball out to him. And I love the back and forth with Rich and I. Like, hey, Rich, like, am I seeing this right? Like, is this? And he's like, and I love how like he corrects the hell out of me, right? Like, he just goes crazy and corrects the hell out of me. He's just like, no, he's got to get over to the 3, man. He's in a blender. Like, I'm just like, all right, bro. Like, I'm sorry, I was asking a question. Shout out to Dad, man. He's always cooking me.
Oh my God, I love it. So good. And anytime we can get a Rich impression on the show, my day is made.
You got it. So, you got to slam dunk that. That's a lob off the glass.
Absolutely. He's got me. I'm so happy. I don't even remember what we were talking about. What were we talking about?
We were talking about Jalen Hurts and going through progressions. And then we got onto Kalia Davis and we got onto
defense.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
The point being is I'll just bring it back to the defense, I guess, because we talked a little bit about Kyle Shanahan. We talked about how he was cooking, and we'll kind of bounce around. We're just vibing. But I got to give so much freaking credit to that defense, man, for keeping the 49ers in that game. That game could have spiraled quickly.
14-0 with the way that offense was looking.
They didn't hold them to those field goals, man. That could have gotten real ugly. I mean, who knows? Maybe it looks more like a comeback win more than it kind of looks like just a flat out blowout, right? If they score 14 opposed to 6.
We could spin a narrative though that Brock Purdy came back in the game.
Oh, we can spin? Oh, I already spinned it. I've already been spinning that.
So let's spin it. I don't want to hear that Brock Purdy can't come back. He erased the 6-0 deficit.
6-0?
6-0.
He erased it.
Erased it. Stop playing with my quarterback.
That reminds me of that video that Jordan always posts with the last shot on the line. Who are you going to give it
to? Iguodala.
I want Iguodala. But in all seriousness, man, like that's why I liked how they literally had negative yardage in the first quarter, and that is adversity that you have to overcome on the road, and then you add in all the context, and for it to turn into a blowout, like, dude, that's the like part of the unbelievable part of this game was that the Eagles did find themselves in a favorable spot. The defense stood up. I mean, you were able to get AJ Brown going on some slants. Smith was able to get going on some stuff as well. But AJ Brown, who I would say took a little shot at some 49er secondaries, but because I want to spin that narrative, and I'm going to do it.
He did, but also AJ Brown, scoreboard,
pal,
scoreboard. What the hell is wrong with these? Like,
what happened to all this boohoo talk, man?
And you know what's crazy? I was just about to say that. Right? Eagles fans and their players, take it like a man. You lost. It doesn't matter. What happened? Right after the Super Bowl, AJ Brown and the Eagles are crying about a slippery field. Right after this game, now AJ Brown is like, oh, throw me the football. Like, who's on me? Boo hoo. 42 to whatever, how many points you scored. Get worked. I'm tired of like everybody like trying to paint the 49ers as complainers when all these dudes have done is cry after every single loss. I don't understand. It's like projecting, right? It's projecting onto other people. Like,
Yeah,
oh, well,
I
they
like
were
that
crying.
word.
No, you're crying. You've been crying. You've been crying since the Super Bowl's over. And then when you lost the Super Bowl and you were crying about the field, you went back to talking about the 49ers. And now you got your boots smoked. Like, you didn't just lose. Like, you got your boots smoked. And you're still out here talking about, oh, look who was covering me. Scoreboard. Take your own advice about when 49ers players and fans were complaining about obviously losing their quarterback. Be quiet, be humble, take your loss, and move on. I'm just, it's insane to me that the Eagles players and fans talk all that mess about whiners, or, the 40 whiners. I'm like, grow up, bro. That's like a second grade insult. But look at you. All you literally have done is cry after every big loss. I don't understand, Brad. Make it make sense.
Dude, I had an Eagles fan drop into, I think we were doing a film breakdown, and he was just talking crap about us whining after losses. And I'm like, what?
That's
What are you
you.
doing? Like, it's like, what are you doing right
That's
now?
you.
Like, he's like, well, remember when you lost this game? I'm like, pal, you lost the Super Bowl last year.
And what happened?
Well,
and all you did was cry after.
it's like, what are we talking about? But again, I got it on the screen. If you didn't see it, AJ Brown posted this meme in one of his carousel posts after this game that says, do you see who was guarding me? Throw me the ball. Well, Jason, the San Francisco 49ers did throw him the ball. I 2 times pop out in the end zone where Charvarius Ward was absolutely on clamp. Just now he gave up some stuff over the middle, but I mean the epitome of bend but don't break. And I think as long as the 49ers defense can do that, bend but don't break, that's exactly what this team needs right now. As long as they're not giving up touchdowns and this team is scoring 30 plus points on the offensive side, dude, it's gonna be so hard to stop. And Charvarius Ward was starting to get a bad rap, I think, there for a little bit. And I couldn't be happier for the way all these DBs are playing. I even got, I think, Throwback says, how impressed were you with the offensive line? We'll get the offensive line a little bit. We talked about the defensive line. Says, I was very impressed with the D line. Came 46 press.
I can't hear you. I think, did you go mute?
Yeah, my audio cut out. I don't know why that happened.
Yeah.
But he also says Ambry Thomas deserves his flowers. Dude,
Oh,
Ambry Thomas, Diamador Lenore, and as well Charvarius Ward from again, if we're gonna sling the heat, we also got to give them their flowers too.
100%.
Like, and these guys, they were a concern earlier on, a little not like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? It was just like, oh, we're seeing some things that are kind of worrisome. But my goodness, those dudes have been balling. They really, really have.
Dude, and again, if we're going to give the defense flowers, you got to apologize to Steve Wilks.
Yeah.
Apologize. Just,
I don't even think I talked that much crap, but I apologize, Steve, if I did.
No, not you. Not
no,
you.
I'm taking the opportunity.
Yeah.
To stand on business, Jason.
Yeah.
Like,
standing on business.
I critiqued them for sure.
Yeah.
Because we were watching the tape. I was like, why are we doing this? Doesn't make sense to me. And whatever light bulb went off, thank goodness, because they figured it out.
Yeah, and the biggest adjustment is, and in this game, I'm not afraid to say it, secondary is covered up for the D line. Those pressures, if 46 go to the D line, after watching the tape, more than half of them go to the secondary because they were covering. And some of the biggest adjustments were Charvarius Ward now traveling with your receiver, and that gives him that confidence to say, hey, listen, coach said, I got this, and it gives that confidence. And confidence is important because that's what Ambry Thomas is playing with right now. And speaking of confidence, Diamador Lenore is getting better and better in the slot, way more instinctive. That's the way I want to put it. Like that hit on DeAndre Swift is him understanding the assignment, knowing and that was like literally like the knockout blow. Like, well, I mean, the game was already over, but that was just insult to injury. But at the trade deadline, everybody wanted a cornerback, right? And I think that's fair. Yeah. But what if your trade deadline cornerback was already in your building? And it just goes to show how much coaching, how much confidence means, because Ambry Thomas was lost for a little while. And now Ambry Thomas is like one of the top 5 highest graded coverage guys in the NFL per PFF. And that is an incredible turnaround. And it's given a layer of depth to this secondary that we were nervous about, right? Like, who's going to play if someone gets hurt? Who's going to play if someone has to go down? Now, you don't have that because in nickel situations, you've got your guys now. And also, I kind of wanted to ask you this because I watched the defensive tape too. What is this huge concern with Jair Brown? I just like, I feel like there was maybe one missed tackle. Now all of a sudden it's like, well, they signed Logan Ryan because Jair Brown can't tackle. The kid has played 140 snaps, I think, over the last 3 games. He's missed 3 tackles. Where's this? Like, I think Tig's been fine. Where's this huge concern about tackling that all of a sudden now Tig can't tackle and now you got to bring in Logan Ryan's depth? That doesn't mean that they're not confident in Tig. I don't understand. Like, I've been seeing the outpouring on Twitter about, well, they're concerned because he hasn't been tackling. He's missed 3 tackles in 3 games, and 2 of them came on Sunday per PFF. Like, am I missing something, Brad? Like, am I like not watching the tape and not understanding what I'm seeing? Because Tig's been fine. He has been fine. He literally has been as steady as you can be, not giving up big plays. He had 3 defensive stops, and he was tied for the team lead. But I don't see anybody talking about that. Everything's about, oh my God, the missed tackles. I don't know where this narrative came from, and I'm not sure what it's grounded in because it's not reality.
I think it really comes down to, and I would constitute that play on AJ Brown as just a bad angle, honestly. Like, he just kind of took like a weird angle. He kind of went flat instead of vertical, and he put himself in a bad spot. So I can easily see why he missed that tackle. And how he can correct that in the future. Like, there's nothing that I've seen from Jair Brown on tape that would indicate to me that he's a concern. And not only that, but he had one of the better tackles on the day, on AJ Brown on this very play. You're going to see Tig right at the top of the logo, and watch him sniff this thing out and just drive his shoulder right into AJ Brown. We talked about his closing speed last week.
That's a big
boy.
Look
who's there.
That's a big boy.
Yeah. AJ, how often do you see AJ Brown falling backwards? Like,
right.
It just doesn't happen. And it's like, we can all, and this is a great lesson for anyone who is interested in actual football evaluation. You kind of have to get it into your brain that every single player is going to make a bad play.
Yeah.
And they're going to look really bad at times, but
because
that's
the other
not
guys
how,
get paid too.
That's not how you evaluate.
Right.
That's why I don't post negative clips, because people take negative clips and they go, well, this is who he is. And it's like, no, it's part of who he is. But does that show the body of work, or does it show the outliers? Every player has an outlier. The best players have outlier plays. And so that's why I think that probably people might be saying that about Tig, because they saw that miss on AJ Brown. It turned into a really big play. But outside of that, I saw Tig flying around, man. He was making tackles. He had one tackle where all 3 of them slipped off. Gipp slipped off. I think Greenlaw was involved. He slipped off. I forget who it was. I think it was Smith. He just made a good play. But outside of that, Tig was doing his job. And you also have to remember he's very young. And that's when I look at that missed tackle, I look at that as him just being like deer in the headlights. Oh my gosh, AJ Brown is running at me, and I got to tackle him. Like, this dude he's still young. It's going to take time. So that's why it's like, when you're evaluating, and like, you can kind of talk about this with Ambry a little bit, talk about Charvarius, Diamador. They play positions where you're going to look silly. It's not a matter
secondary. It's a selfless job.
Yeah, it's like O-line. You're going to look silly. Doesn't matter who you are. I've seen clips where Trent Williams looks silly. He's the best tackle that I think has ever played this game. But it happens. Yeah. And so you can't look at the small negatives and build your narrative off that.
Right.
That's what people do. They take the negative outliers, build a narrative. This is who he is. This is the type of player he is. He's trash. He's garbage. Get him out of here. Yeah. So with Tig, I don't see the issue. I see a young player finding his footing in the secondary, but I see the potential. that's the most important part for me, is I see the potential he brings.
Isn't it funny, Brad, that when Hufanga went down, and I wasn't trying to downplay his loss. I said that Tig and him, their skill set is so similar.
Yeah.
Playing downhill, playing fast, a nose for the ball finds them, and obviously in the first game that Tig plays in, the ball finds him, right? Isn't it funny that when we were evaluating Hufanga early on in his career, right? Like before, remember Tart was still there as well. The concerns were he's got to clean up those angles. He's got to stop missing tackles. He's getting beat on certain plays. It's like, guys, they're
That's
the
pretty
same.
funny. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, they're like the same guy, right? Like they're the same guy. Their skill sets are 100% the same. And the goal is next season, whether Tashawn Gibson comes back, who's actually been fine as well too. I think we stopped saying it. We don't ever mention Tashawn Gibson, but he's still a veteran leader and a guy who knows his job.
He
and
makes
is
plays
there.
when he needs to.
Yeah, and he's the
great.
anchor, right, on the back end.
Yeah.
But yeah, this looks like it's going to be Hufanga and Tig going forward. And you're going to have two heavy hitters, guys who play fast and downhill, who have a nose for the ball, and they kind of mirror each other. And you're going to see all types of exotic things when they're both going to be on the field. Like meaning maybe Hufanga's a single high and you're going to bring Tig to the line of scrimmage, or you want to switch it up and you want to show different looks. Those guys are going to play so well off of each other going forward that the 49ers are just in great hands when it comes to that. Nice to see a third round pick, be somebody, hey, Embry Thomas is a third round pick too. So let me shut up about that, right? Nice to see 2 third round picks actually contributing to this football team. It's a beautiful thing.
Don't leave
Don't
out
do it.
Jake Moody, Mike.
I knew it. I just all right, man. Look, all right. Look. Ever since Minnesota, he hasn't missed a kick.
Is this the
Yeah,
kicker
that's it. All right,
segment
no.
of the show?
Ever since I want to say something nice about Jake Moody. I want to make sure I get it out. Ever since the Minnesota game, he hasn't missed a kick. Thanks, kid. Well done. I love that. I love that for you. Hey, like I said, did I say last show? I think we gotta stop playing with Mitch Wishnowsky. He didn't have to work too much in this game, but man, he's been really good, huh?
Dude, I posted a video talking about how the San Francisco 49ers have 16 top 10 ranked Pro Bowl vote getters. Yeah. And when we got to Mitch Wishnowsky, I think it was like number 7. I think he's ranked. And in part of my analysis of it, I was like, man, Mitch is playing lights out when Jason Aponte gives you your flowers. As a punter. I was like, that's how you're 100%. Killing it. I was like, he's too low. He needs to be higher. We have Jason Aponte giving him compliments. That means this is too low. He's playing at an elite level.
Brad, you know what's funny is I if I'm not mistaken, you and I get the film at the same time, right? In the same way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So when the film comes in, right, it comes in by the week. And obviously the Thursday game's already loaded, but every other game starts to get loaded up. And it goes 49ers O against Philadelphia D, 49ers D against Philadelphia O, and then 49ers kick. So like there's a whole file just for it was very short this week, but I ain't gonna hold you. I've been actually watching like Mitch Wishnowsky punts, and I'm just like, whoa, I'm like, oh my God. Look, this is how good things are rolling for the San Francisco 49ers. We can give the punters love, man, even when they never have to work, right? Mitch had 2 punts, and then we didn't hear from him again. Like, he just wasn't on the field at all. Like, but I mean, preferably that's how you want to get it done. But hey, man, look, it can't be that your narrative blinds you from objectivity. So again, not in love with the 4th round pick, but man, is Mitch Wishnowsky hooping, and I'm sure everybody's gonna like clip this and run to Twitter and be like, look, we got him.
Ladies and gentlemen,
you know who's the worst with that? You know who's the worst with that, Brad? Jordan Elliott.
Oh, amazing.
Jordan Elliott literally is like, get worked, Mitch boom punt, and like he'll like, the reason that I don't see it is because I muted the words Mitch Wishnowsky and Jake Moody, so I don't see anything ever about them. But Jordan Elliott is such an instigator. Shout out to NBC Jordan because he's just starting on us now. NBC Jordan because he's like media now. He's too good to like hang out with us on shows anymore or even jump into the chat.
Rich says only sickos grind special teams tape. That's the level where Aponte's at right now.
Yo, but Rich, I'm just trying to understand all the nuances and everything of football, right? Like I want to get to it all, man. And
it's all about the different angles of how you hold the ball, where the foot placement is.
If you think, hold on, If you think I'm sick, Jordan Elliott has a whole thread of, and he calls it Mitchapalooza from Old School, right? Mitchapalooza, like he's got his
He
face
has a
on
Mitch thread. I have not
a
seen
Mitch
this.
thread of all his punts. If I'm sick, that
Oh no.
man is in a hospital bed sick.
I'm gonna look this
Don't
up.
look it up. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it.
I'm just on personal purposes because but I'll
But
find.
the flyer is from Old School, the movie with Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn, because they
Yeah.
had Mitchapalooza, but they took away Luke Wilson's face and they put Mitch Wishnowsky on it. So like, I mean, like, props for creativity, and that's a really good movie.
Very
But
nice.
Jordan Elliott, stop trolling me, man, or I'm gonna block you.
Shots fired. I mean, that's the best part I think about where the 49ers stand, right? It's like it's hard to like really be upset about much. I wanted to get your thoughts. I mean, you kind of already talked about it, but what did you think of I called him Logan Paul earlier, but
Logan
Logan
Paul.
Ryan, yeah. What do you think about the Logan Ryan signing? How do you interpret that?
Again, depth, and I think the 49ers are just right now in a mode where you can load up on these guys, especially with the amount of cap space that they have, and it won't roll over to next year. So Logan Ryan being here, possibly Brad Graham, Zach Ertz. Ooh, baby. 2 tight end sets out here wilding. But the team is in a position right now where you can make these types of moves and bring in veteran guys who understand what it takes to get to the end. Zach Ertz, I think, has played in 1 Super Bowl, but Logan Ryan has 2 rings, both with Tom Brady, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just a solid move because you being proactive to injuries doesn't allow you to scramble if something happens, right? And I think, you see Hufanga go down, and cool, you have Tig to step in. Now, what if one of those guys goes down? What do you have? And it's almost like you need to bring in a guy who's very experienced, who understands I'm here to just solidify a team that has a goal in mind, and I don't need playing time. So I think that's kind of what they're thinking, and that's kind of where the 49ers are right now, is that they can bring in these veteran guys and just have them as depth, especially because we've got the injury to Darrell Luter, got the injury to Ross Dwelly. It sounds like those guys are candidates possibly for IR, especially Dwelly. So you've got to fill roster spots regardless. Why not fill it with a veteran guy who knows how to win and understands how to be a professional in this league?
Yeah. So that's exactly the way that I looked at that signing as well. And if they can get Zach Ertz, man, I think that would be such a nice get because let's face it, Dwelly's our backup receiving tight end. But he doesn't get opportunities to catch any passes in the receiving game. And it's Warner who's the next guy up because he's a blocker. If you could spell George Kittle, give George Kittle some breaks, potentially,
and still be able to throw the football to Zach Ertz,
keep him fresh. Exactly. Get it to Zach Ertz, potentially out in space. I mean, he might not be the same player he was in his prime, but
he's still good though.
He's still good. And who knows what kind of juice he would bring being a Bay Area kid. Actually, fun fact, I played against Zach Ertz in high school.
There you go.
Bringing back the glory days stories.
Nice.
I think he was a junior. I was a senior. He was freaking huge, Jason.
Yeah.
Huge. Like, I swear, I was like, dude, this dude's towering over me. But if they could get him back in the Bay, Stanford kid, Monta Vista kid, I think that would be great. And I don't see why they wouldn't go after it because I don't see any spot really where there's a tight end 1 spot available, right?
No.
Anywhere
I mean, the only place that I could think of is Baltimore with Mark Andrews going out.
That's true.
But they like. Nice, I was about to say they like Isaiah Likely, and he's a hooper. Yeah. So like it would just be, again, it's the contenders thing, right? Like, who are the contenders? And if the 49ers don't land him, it's not because they didn't ask, about him or anything like that. But I wanted to ask you this, Brad. And shout out to Cheyenne Lube. Ward has been locked in. So fun to watch.
I forgot to pull this up when we were talking about him.
No, Mooney has accepted the role of I'm the guy, and I think, again, that confidence of Kyle being like, go cover DK, go get him, like, that's it, and we're gonna find a way to get it done. I think it lifts a player's spirits. But I wanted to ask you this, Brad, about the 2 tight end sets. I feel like Kyle has like dreams of a 2 tight end set. And the way that I justify it, and the way that this is the data point that I'm going to use, Jordan Reed. Like you literally wanted Jordan Reed to be here so you could have Jordan Reed and George Kittle at the same time. And Jordan Reed's not a blocker. You're not going to use him in that way. You're going to use Jordan Reed to be a receiver. You want to cause matchup problems. Kyle wants that so much. And I think the Jordan Reed thing tells you more about what he really wants to do at times. And it would just be an embarrassment of riches if you're running the personnel where you've got 2 tight ends, you got Debo, you got Ayuk, and you got Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. What are you going to do as a defense? Who do you slow down? One of those guys is going to spring open. And the way that Brock's playing right now, in terms of diagnosing pre-snap and then being able to get the football to guys afterwards, it's in a place right now where Kyle is just like a kid in a candy store. And he's just acting up. Like at this point, we've never seen an offense operate like this under Kyle Shanahan since the Atlanta offense that went to the Super Bowl. And that is something that's insane to think about, because when you look at those weapons, I would argue the 49ers weapons are better than all of those weapons that Atlanta had. And I love Julio Jones. I think Julio Jones is singularly in that season a better wide receiver than anybody the 49ers have right now. But other than that, Taylor
lying.
Gabriel, Austin Hooper, Tony Gonzalez, Sanu, like those guys aren't the 49ers weapons. Kyle right now is being able to do whatever he wants, and allowing him to get another tight end and run 2 tight end sets, even though they don't run them as much, it's just another headache for this defense that's facing you. So I just want Kyle to be happy, and I think he needs to be happy with another tight end that can be out there on the field with Kittle, and I think that's the way to his heart.
And you bring up a great point, because, we know he loves tight ends. Like, he's rostered 4 all year. Yep. And Braden Willis hasn't been active 1 game yet. Yep. And although Braden Willis showed tons of promise in training camp and he really flashed, I still think there's, that rookie element, right? Rookies make rookie mistakes. And Kyle just has a system that doesn't thrive off rookies necessarily, right? They need guys to be executing to precision for everything to work. So a guy like Zach Ertz fits that. And to your point, 2 tight end sets with 2 receiving tight ends opens up another dimension of the offense that we haven't seen, because I can't even remember the last time Warner got targeted. I think it was last year, and it was that one.
No. Warner caught a pass 2 games ago.
Did he?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
The last one I could think
I was in Atlanta when Jimmy threw that dot on him and he fumbled. I was just like, oh my God, dude. No, he caught a pass. If I'm not mistaken, if it's not this past week, not the Philly game, the one before it, it was the one before that. I think he caught it against Jacksonville, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna look it up right now. You got it. Keep going though.
Ooh, yeah, I think it might have been. Yeah, look it up. No.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I got
one reception, 9 yards versus Seattle.
There we go. On Thanksgiving. I told you it was not.
I must
it was
have been
not this week.
It was the week or something, because I completely missed it.
No, look. All right. Very few things, Brad Graham, get me super excited. Obviously, right? And then you see 89 catch a pass. I was just like, oh, we're rolling. This guy caught a pass. I'm like, oh, we're rolling right now. Like, they're doing whatever they want. That's disrespectful. If I'm on defense and I see Charlie Warner catch a pass, I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all.
And that's not Charlie Warner slander, dude.
No, it's not.
He's such a great blocker. Like, that's why I've been on Charlie Warner for the last couple of years. Like, this dude's making the roster, because he's the only guy that can block as close to Kittle's level than any of these other tight ends on the roster. He's the only 100%. Guy. That's why he's here. And that's why he plays a lot. But to the point being is, if you can get a guy like Ertz who can block, like, let's face it, he might not be the best blocker in the world, but he's done it and he's had to do it. So he can do it still.
Yep.
Might not be to the level of Kittle, might not even be to the level of Warner, but still, it's part of the job description. You got to be able to block to be able to be a tight end in this league, unless your name is Travis Kelce. But honestly, if you
can, I'm sorry, keep going. I want you to finish that.
No, go.
I want to set it off.
Okay, you want me
to
finish?
Nah, okay. Yeah, you finish first, and then I'll set it off. You got it.
All right. The point being, and it's really, really short. You get 2 receiving tight ends. It's going to be really fun to see what those guys can do together.
Yeah, I agree, Brad. Let's set it off.
Set it off.
George Kittle's
Pop
been
it
better than
off.
Travis. George Kittle's been better than Travis Kelce this season. Set
Easy.
it off. Set it
Easy.
off. Set it off. George Kittle has been better than Travis Kelce this season, and we need to start having a conversation again about George Kittle being that guy, the number one guy. Let's not look. Taylor Swift, you can't go to all the games. I know the splits. Right? When you're there, he hoops. When you're not, he doesn't. George Kittle, his wife's going to be at every single game, and that man's going to hoop whenever he's asked. George Kittle has been a better overall tight end than Travis Kelce this season, and I don't think it's particularly close.
Let's pull the chat. Chat, what are you thinking? If you who is the best tight end in the NFL? Drop it in the chat. Is it Kittle or Kelce? Light that thing up. But you're 100% right. I mean, I've been ridiculously obnoxious about calling George Kittle the best tight end in the league, even when Travis Kelce was doing ridiculous things, because you know me. I am an offensive lineman. I put into high regard the ability to block. And that was the first thing that attracted to me to George Kittle coming out of Iowa. That's why he was a draft crush of mine, because he was arguably the best blocker out of all.
The audio did it again.
Man, I don't know why that keeps happening. But he was the best. He was the best blocker that I came across in that draft class out of offensive linemen and tight ends. So I've always been on Kittle when it comes to blocking. And that's the separator for me, because I look at the tight end position like a little bit more holistically than we do now from a fantasy forward type perspective.
100%.
If you're receiving and getting touchdowns, that's the measure of what a good tight end looks like. To me, a good tight end is George Kittle, a guy who can do both things and can block like a son of a gun. I mean, we saw George Kittle had blocked 2 guys on Deebo Samuel's touchdown, and then on the other Deebo Samuel touchdown, he literally blocked for 40 yards all the way downfield. Like, that's the difference. Like, I know Kelce is a phenomenal athlete. He's I don't know how he gets so open all the time. I don't even understand it. But he's always open, he always catches it, and he comes up clutch. That's huge. He's phenomenal. He's got the numbers. Great. But for me, I judge a tight end on being a complete tight end, and you got to block. And he blocks at such a high level. It's unreal. But you're fitting right now.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to I mean, look, it's very easy right now to do 49ers content. Very easy. You know, talking crazy about the Philadelphia Eagles, talking crazy about the Seattle Seahawks. It's very easy. But yeah, this is a conversation that I really want to have, that I think is based in reality, watching the games and everything as well too. It's like, because of the blocking, it's always been an argument that Kittle is better than Kelce. But I don't
Yeah,
think
always
in
been my argument.
certain right, but I don't think in certain years that has been enough to push him over Kelce. Right?
No,
Like
he didn't get
certain
the
years,
targets.
right? That's what I'm saying. Like in certain years, it wasn't enough to say, "Hey, he's a better blocker," which I think Travis Kelce also gets kind of crapped on a little bit about his blocking. Like
I think he's gotten better. I think
yeah,
he's gotten better.
He's not a bad
I don't think
blocker.
he was
like
good to start his career,
Right.
but I think he's like realized, like, man, I got to block a little bit here.
yeah, he's not a bad blocker. Like I want to make sure we get that out.
Once he
there,
started
but
hanging out with Kittle, I think the light bulb came on a little bit.
a little bit. But I do think that this season, based on everything that we're seeing, and I know the numbers probably won't bear it out. I'm sure that Travis Kelce has better numbers, better, yards and
targets.
probably catches, because he's like their number one receiver. But I think that the argument this season is much more valid that Kittle is better than Kelce, especially with like the talks of like Kelce ramping up for a retirement sooner than later, right? Like he's been going through these things, and it's like, man, it's kind of what we were saying about Kittle. It's just like, man, he's injured, sometimes. But I think this season it's much more valid than it's ever been, aside from the season in which Kittle broke the tight end record that Kelce broke like the year after. So I think this is the biggest year for you to have this argument, stand on business, and say, yeah, George Kittle is better than Travis Kelce this season, and I would start my team with George Kittle over Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I've obviously always been in the camp that Kittle is the most complete tight end in the NFL since basically about year two, where he really popped off. But, you know, it is what it is. 49ers, uh, you've seen how much Kittle has found success with Brock Purdy. Who knew? It took Mr. Irrelevant coming in to unlock George Kittle, and maybe that's our natural transition.
Talk about it.
I think there's two main topics that we got left. I'm saving Big Dom for the end
Oh,
because I want to get into Big Dom in a
he's
little
little
bit.
Dom. He's little Dom in these streets. He ain't Big Dom. He's little Dom.
Let's talk about MV Purdy,
Ooh,
the front runner for the MVP
the betting
candidate,
favorite.
the betting favorite.
The betting favorite.
Um, yeah, so uh somehow him returning to Philly wasn't really talked about that much. You
Oh
notice
yeah, yeah.
that?
And he kind of talked about it in a press conference too. I liked it about like, hey, I wanted to get back here. He felt it too, man. I love it when the team like puts that chip on their shoulder because that's why Debo was so adamant about what they would have done if Brock would have been there because they believe in him and Brock also believes in himself. So yeah, I love hearing him say that. Me coming back, I did have to like show you a little something.
Yeah, man. And it was just an underrated storyline from this game just because we spent so much focus on kind of the drama elements of it that Purdy returning to the place where his career almost ended before it got started
Oh yeah,
uh, in the biggest game of his career to date, and then coming back and having, you know, the type of performance that he did. You know, of course, tons of credit to Debo Samuel
yep,
for. I mean, a lot of that yardage is yards after catch and him just being crazy. I would
yep,
say that was definitely a game where it was like, all right, like, yeah, like Purdy stats look nice. He had that really nice touchdown to Brandon Ayuk. That was nice, where he got outside the
yep.
pocket, pump faked, and put it on the money on him, got it over the defender. But then it was like everyone else was cooking. It was Kyle. And that's what I think is so exciting about it is people use that argument to discredit him,
Yep.
but it's like, dude, this is what football should look like. Like this is exactly what every offense is trying to obtain.
Yeah,
What Purdy, what Kittle, what Debo, what CMC, what Kyle, what Ayuk, what they're all doing is literally
yeah,
the goal.
yeah.
And they're doing it. And somehow, that Purdy, he's got all the weapons. He's not that
It's
good.
it's hilarious to me. Brad Graham, I'm not a head coach, not an offensive coordinator. But it's so funny that the idea of getting the ball in the hands of your playmakers and letting them make plays is somehow now an issue, as if every single football team that plays in the National Football League doesn't try to do the same exact thing. I guess aside from the Atlanta Falcons, because Arthur Smith hates Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson. But
Sound like a scorn fantasy player.
oh yeah, I made the playoffs in one of my leagues despite Arthur Smith with Bijan Robinson, despite. But it's so funny to me because the whole yards after catch thing is so overblown that people just have lost the fact that Patrick Mahomes, when he won MVP, he had more percentage of his yards be yards after catch. But it's never,
It
oh,
was like
well,
54%, right?
54%, right? And it's 49 for Brock Purdy right now. It's never, oh my God, Mahomes is being carried by Andy Reid. Mahomes is being carried by Travis Kelsey, right? Like it's insane
Well,
to me that people don't understand that getting the ball in the hands of your playmakers is actually optimal. And 31 teams aside from the Atlanta Falcons believe that, and that's why they do it week after week.
well, Jason, based on the common talking points between people who try to, for whatever, just critique or overly critique Brock Purdy, couldn't you apply the same conversation to Patrick Mahomes, who I would say is having a bit of a down year
Down year,
compared to
yes.
other years when he doesn't have a number one wide receiver, when Travis Kelsey's maybe been injured and
Oh,
little hampered. Well,
oh,
does that mean
Brett,
he's not elite? Is that
Brett,
I mean, I'm just taking the same logic and I'm applying it to another team based
oh,
on those scenarios. Does that mean Patrick Mahomes
oh.
is an elite, Jason? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, it's just funny how I want to make sure I say this clearly. Patrick Mahomes has built enough equity in this league because he's won multiple rings. Let's not get it twisted. Like, let's not get
He's
it
the
twisted.
best quarterback in the league right now.
Easily. And I think again, if you're starting a team right now and they like release everybody like for fantasy football and you have the first pick, he's number one pick. But it is kind of funny to watch Patrick Mahomes literally do Patrick Mahomes things, but when his players don't make plays, MVS, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, right? Like those guys. And I just want to make sure I get this out there. I was high on Sky Moore. I thought he was going to be really good, but it's just kind of funny to me that now, because he is Patrick Mahomes and he's someone who is like doing things like getting into the league and winning, MVPs and Super Bowls.
He's got the
right.
equity.
He's got the equity. He gets a pass. He does get a pass, though.
And deservingly so.
Right. 100%. 100% deservingly so. But it's just the way that things are shaping up and the way that people, again, I think I said this in front of you, Brad, and I'll probably say it again. If you've heard me say it, please just say, Jason, you're repeating yourself, whatever. It's so much easier to discredit the last pick in the draft than it is someone who was drafted in the first round.
Banger.
Right? It's so easy.
I've had to borrow it. It's a banger. Jason Aponte, bangers.
It's so easy to say, I am going to bet against the last pick in the draft, and I am going to discredit the last pick in the draft than it is, because in the first round, you're giving guys 3 and 4 years before you make sweeping judgments. And yet, Brock Purdy's got to be perfect right now because you've never seen the last pick in the draft perform this way. And that's the weird part. Again, the quarterback evaluation process with Brock Purdy is the most fascinating in the world. It is. He has to be good right now. I don't even want to give him time. He doesn't even have 20 starts under his belt, right? I don't want to give him 20 starts. But you know what, man? I want to see Zach Wilson with another coordinator, and I want to see what he can do with another coordinator. He might be good. Why is that? Because the draft capital is first round and last round. That's the thing, is you have given I'm sure there's someone out there that thinks that Mac Jones needs weapons and he needs a new offensive coordinator.
Change of scenery.
The amount of rope that is given to first rounders as opposed to what's given to Brock Purdy is based all on draft capital and on the fact that you've never seen this, so it's easy to bet against it. And that is the crux of the argument against him. You can ding him for the playmakers, you can ding him for the scheme and the coach, but it's all based on draft capital. Because if Brock Purdy was drafted in the first 3 rounds, if he was in the 3rd round, let's just say, none of this would even be a talking point. They would be talking about Brock Purdy being one of the new guys in the league.
He'd be the face of the league.
Face of the league, top 5. Let's go.
Mahomes.
But it's the last
Burrow, all those guys.
It's the last pick in the draft. And that's why everyone is able to say, I don't believe it, because you've never seen it. That's where I'm at.
My favorite thing right now that's going on with the people who are just hanging on to their side of things. I mean, Jason, you talk about it all the time, and it's the right way to be. Like, what do you say? It's better to get it right than to be right.
Yes. If you're in a rush to be right, then you're going to get it wrong, right? Like the most humble thing someone can do is realize that your evaluation process was off and change your line of thinking when you're presented with new information, right? Like I recently had someone bring up, what I said about Brock Purdy at training camp. That's fine. I stand on what I said, but that doesn't mean that I am tied to that evaluation going forward when new information is in front of me, right? Do you want someone to try to do mental gymnastics and try to figure out a way to be right? Or do you want someone who's humble enough to say, hey, I was absolutely wrong about Brock Purdy, and I am 100% living in that, but I do also realize what he's been able to do. That's the part about this whole like content creation game and like Twitter is being right and getting it right. Getting it right is boring. Being right and giving the hot take and throwing it out there first is about that. And no, I'm not wrong about Jake Moody. That was a dumb pick. I'm not wrong about that. But
guys, it's been like 5 years, and he's just now giving Mitch Wishnowsky some love. Like we got about 4 more years before.
So look, that's the thing about content creation, right? It's I want to be right. I want to be right.
Of course.
I want to get it right. Getting it right is boring. Getting it right doesn't lead to views. Getting it right doesn't lead to controversy because you're being honest and earnest about your evaluation.
It
But
also means
being
you're
right,
fluid. It means
right?
you're
It's a
fluid.
fluid thing, right? Being right though is jumping on something that you said and trying to find ways to justify it. And that is something that I will never do. I will look you in the face and say, I was dead ass wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. And I will also look you in the face and say that Brock Purdy is the best quarterback that Kyle Shanahan's had. And I don't think it's much of an argument at this point, even with the small sample size. But it's more about what it is and the evaluation process. Everyone's going to miss. No one shoots 100 from 100, and if they did, they would be the greatest GM in the world, and they would have a job.
You there?
People hit, people miss.
Uh-oh.
What?
Uh-oh.
What?
Aponte got the spinning wheel. All right, you're
No,
back.
I'm back.
You're
I
back.
thought I
You're back.
didn't even leave. All right, but like that's the thing. It's like get it right, be right. It depends on whatever it is that you want to do. Evaluations need to be fluid. If you get an evaluation wrong, you have to be able to go back and look at why you got it wrong and adjust that for the next time. Everything's a lesson. It's not an L. I mean, it's an L, but L should be for lesson. A big L for lesson.
You're
L for
dropping
lesson.
bars.
Yeah. So everything needs to be fluid. Everything needs to be, if you really want to deliver honest assessments, you have to be able to put yourself out there and say, I believe this and I believe that, but here's where I got it wrong. Here's where I need to be better. And here's where things are now. Objectiveness isn't easy, especially in the content creation game. And I'm going to get off my soapbox about that.
No, I mean, I want you to stay on that soapbox, and it's kind of why I brought it up. It's because like football in of itself is fluid. Like it's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving. Players are getting better, players are getting worse. So you have to be fluid. One day your favorite player who is the best in the league isn't going to be that player anymore, and vice versa. You're going to have guys like Ambry Thomas, where we had him dead to rights. Like I had him as a cut candidate heading in, out of this training camp.
We did. Both of us did.
And he's balling. And I'm like, good, like great. Like
Great.
I'm not rooting against him because I was like, well, I think he should be cut because he just hasn't shown it in training camp. Outside of what he did his rookie year, he's gone backwards. Like, and that's part of the evaluation process, right? It's like you don't know when it's going to click for some of these guys. Like it really is going to change a lot of things. And the point being about the Brock Purdy situation was the people who are kind of doubting him right now, the thing that they're hanging their hat on are still hypotheticals.
Yep.
Like if you have this sample size of legitimate football film that you have access to, you can watch, you can see, even if it's a broadcast, who cares? It's football, you can see it. Yeah. If you have that access to these things, the metrics, the film, all of it, you have expert analysts, former quarterbacks who have played at the highest of levels, and you're hanging on to a hypothetical situation of why you can't call Brock Purdy a good quarterback. I'm not going to say any mean names, but it's fine. Do you? Yeah. I'm going to do me, and we'll see who's right in the end.
That's the problem too. Is like the bold take, the one who jumps out in the front. And if you get it right, obviously, then you deserve your credit, right? Because there were people that were very much on Brock Purdy before he even played one game as a 49er. And those people deserve credit because of what they saw in college and what they could project. And another part of the evaluation process that I think that people don't understand is the projection portion of it. You are projecting what you believe they will be based on what you've seen on the field, I guess temperament, all of those things, right? You have to be able to project how their game will translate from college to the NFL. There were people that were 100% 10 toes down on Brock Purdy about, hey, this guy is going to be a baller, right? My issue was in training camp, I didn't see that guy. I didn't see that guy for two reasons. One, there would be days that he didn't get reps at all because they were so in a rush to get Trey Lance acclimated and get him the first team reps and get him back on the field. And two, there were times where he downright missed passes and just didn't look like the guy, right? Again, performing with the third team. But my problem was, and what I did wrong is I used that training camp session, right? That entire time that we were there for that, we went to every single camp. I didn't properly evaluate what he could project to, and I already made a grand proclamation that he will never. And that's my biggest issue, and that's the L that I have to hold. And that's why I won't delete the tweet. It's out there for anybody to see. If you bring it up, I will literally reply to you, I got it wrong. This is and that's the thing. The hardest thing to do is to be humble and say that you got it wrong. But the best thing that you can do is take the L and understand that your evaluation process needs to tweak and change a little because you're forgetting something. And I
Mhm.
think that's the hardest part for people to do. It's much easier to try to justify your, your hot take right away than it is to actually say I was wrong. And I think it's boring to say I was wrong. It's boring to say that like I'm working on my evaluation process because you just want people who are going to scream and yell about what they believe and what they were right about.
Right.
But I'd rather be the guy that you guys look at and say, "Hey, Jason got it wrong, but he admitted it." And now we can at least give him a little bit more credibility because he's able to say he was wrong and he's trying to be better, as opposed to I'm right, you're not smart enough, and I'll find ways to figure out why my take was actually true.
Right. I think so I took a L in the sense of a lesson from that whole situation as well, because I remember you and I and Jason, or you and I and Jordan, were at the combine, right?
Yep.
So we were vibing, we were watching all these prospects, right? Up close and personal, getting to do something that I don't even think had been done at that point, right? Because they had never let media in, you
Nope.
know. So we were doing something that hadn't been done before. It was our first times at the combine, and I was getting able to, for once, be able to scout these guys up close, up personal, and with my own eyes. And one of the tight ends out here was like 6'6", 240, moving. I was like, who's this guy? Oh, he went to Iowa State. All right, let me go check the tape. Went and checked the tape. I'm like, who's this quarterback? This dude is slinging it. And from that point on, I started putting Brock Purdy in all my Mr. Irrelevant slots. So because we knew we needed another quarterback, right? Because it was Trey Lance, it was Sudfeld, and then no one at that
Yeah.
particular point. So
And
we
Purdy
knew
and Purdy was destined for the practice squad. Like they weren't going to let him go.
exactly. And that's kind of the point. It's like my lesson that I learned was I saw him pop on tape. I put him in my mock drafts. The 49ers drafted him. Great, cool, whatever. I didn't go to OTAs. But when I got to training camp, I was $2 million Sudfeld, Trey Lance. The only quarterback that I watched in training camp was Trey
Trey Lance.
Lance
Yeah.
because I was trying to evaluate Trey. Sudfeld, I'm on to a different player. When it was Purdy, I'm on to a different player. And the biggest lesson for me was don't overlook anyone. That's what I learned from the Brock Purdy thing, because I didn't give him any attention.
Right.
And that's not because like you know how it is at training camp. What do you, there's so many things to
Well,
watch.
and
So you
and
have to
that's
pick and choose.
right. And that's what we do. We have three people. Hey, you're going to watch this. I'm going to watch this. We'll watch this. And then we're going to compare notes. But then, like how you said, you ignored Brock. The 49ers were ignoring him. They weren't giving him reps. They were not giving him reps. Like there would be days where he would get 2 reps because they were so enamored with getting Trey Lance ready because
Yeah,
Lance
getting
is the
Trey the
starter.
reps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lance is the starter. Like it would literally be okay, Brock 2, get off. Like go bring Trey back and let's run it again. Like get Trey Lance amped up. Like that's the thing. It's like I don't have the issue with the OTAs thing because I wasn't there and I don't have strong opinions for things that I never saw.
Mhm.
But when people are like, oh, he had a killer camp, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. And that's not my opinion.
Can't
Objectively,
remember
he
much.
did not do anything in camp and crush anything. Like
Like
it was not
the
yeah, there was
wow
none. There
throws
was
were like,
none of that. There
oh,
was none of that. And I that's the part that I'll stand on, and that's where my evaluation came from. But it's just like, man, when people are like, "Well, we heard in camp," he didn't do anything in that camp. It's when he got to the preseason games you saw the glimpses and you saw the throws. Some guys are gamers, some guys are getting caught up to speed. He was also working with the third team. These are all factors into why that. But when people say, "Oh, he was at training camp killing it," I was like, "Were you there?" Because there's no way you being there would allow you to believe that because it wasn't true. He barely got reps certain days, and when he did, he threw the first interception in camp. He threw many balls that were supposed to be down the field and they were short, and people are just looking around like, again, what you guys are saying, like what did this person see over that we didn't? He saw OTAs. And we were not there for that. In OTAs, apparently that's where he really shined, but it wasn't training camp. Like it was not training camp. It never happened in training camp. And like to Brad's point, he wasn't watching There would be 2 reps maybe in a day. Some days he would
Right.
get 5 reps. Some days he would get 7 reps. But it's not anything that you saw in training camp that would lead you to that. If you saw something in OTAs, which was closed off to just media, then you can make an evaluation of that. I'm not going to argue that, but he didn't
Right.
kill it in training camp. Like that's not true at all. It's just objectively false. And again, it's not to call anybody out for it. It's just that's objectively false. Anybody who was there wasn't walking away. We didn't walk out. We didn't walk out of there with our notes because we have notebooks and everything. We didn't walk out of there and say, not one day, not me, not Brad, not Jordan, not nobody. Yo, did you see Purdy on his throw? Like, did you see that? Like, it never once happened. Now, again, that's training camp. That doesn't mean that that's what was going to translate to the field. But the one thing that I'll stand on is what I saw in training camp was true because there would be days he wouldn't even get reps. That's all.
And honestly,
No, and Mark,
too, like,
and Mark, I didn't take it as disrespect. I was just trying to paint the picture. It's less about, I think it's less about the evaluation process and more we just didn't get to see much from him because there were days where they were just trying to give everything to Trey and get him ready for the season, which makes a lot of sense, obviously.
right. And like my point was that like if you are going in to evaluate every single player and you have that ability to be up close and personal, get to see the interactions, get to see and really pay attention to the smaller aspects of development, I guarantee you Brock was showing things in camp where you're like, yeah, this isn't a normal rookie. Like his command in the huddle, the way the players are responding to him, the way he's working through certain progressions and certain reads that from where we're standing don't look that great, but if you have a certain vantage point might be better looking. So I think there's levels to it. Like, but from my perspective, I wasn't there to evaluate Brock. I was there to evaluate Trey. And so I didn't when Brock was up, my eyes went to O-line, my eyes went to secondary. I wasn't evaluating him. So that was my lesson was I just didn't look at him. Like like you said, we didn't see the flashy plays where you have to see it.
Right.
It was like he might have been doing all the small things really well, but I wasn't watching, so I couldn't see it. I was watching other people.
But Brad, let's paint the picture too, right? So first of all, you can't have your phones out, anything like that, right? So Brad, Jordan, anybody that was there at camp, you have this responsibility to kind of report things on the fly. So
Yes.
when you see the first team come off the field, we all would sit down and look at each other and say, "What do we see here?" Like, and like on this run, and Brad would say, "Hey, listen, McGlinchey kicked out, and he had a really good block on this play, and this, and that's the stuff that you also
And then I
write
would
into
ask
your
you,
notes."
like, oh, I
Right.
remember I was like, Trey Sermon, like, what did he do
Right.
on this play?
Right. Did you see? And I'm like, look, it was a great zone read. He hit the right hole. Like we're all comparing notes. So the time to do that is when the third string team is on the field because those aren't going to be the guys who are starters, right? Like obviously. Now again, that's part of learning. And it's a part of understanding that you need to tweak your process. You need to also make sure that, but it's a lot going on. And we're all we're trying to do, regardless of whether you agree with our opinions is not, is tell you what we've been seeing. And that's completely up to you whether you trust, right? Like everybody's got the person that they go to and they're like, hey, listen,
For sure.
I trust this guy's opinion. I trust this guy's opinion. All we're trying to do right now is we're trying to be those guys for you. Certain people will believe everything we say or give us credit. Certain people won't. And that's fine, right? Like that's completely up to you. But for us, it's a chaotic time because we're all trying to
really
paint the
chaotic.
entire picture for you. And we love you guys for like holding on to it and like trying to figure out what we think. Because we wouldn't obviously be doing content if you didn't. But it is chaotic. It is chaotic in those moments because then you put your head down and you start, doing notes and Purdy's got 3 reps out and then boom, first team's back on the field again. And you got to get right back up and start writing again. So it's a lot for us to be earnest and honest with our evaluations. We try our best to compare notes and bring it all together for you. Again, my lesson in all of this is not to use a small sample size to judge someone, especially at training camp when Brock goes out there in preseason and he starts lighting it up and it starts to look like a guy, right? Like, and that's the thing. That's always going to be the reason that I hold the L on my Brock Purdy assessment during training camp. And I wear it like a badge of honor because all I can do is get better from there and try to use it as a way to tweak my evaluation.
Exactly. Because I think you and I and like, Jordan and like, our little circle, like we actually trying to evaluate, right? Like we're not just trying to report, we're trying to do that projection. We're trying to find those traits and those nuances that are small, maybe might be slipped through the cracks, but like this is what makes a great player. This is what gives us promise and belief that this guy is going to be a good prospect. Or for like Gammon saying, for example, why did TDP and Trey Sermon fail here? You and I, all of us, when we were at training camp, I remember TDP was really underwhelming his
Yes,
rookie season.
he was.
Really underwhelming. But to TDP's credit, he came back. He had a really good training camp.
He did.
He had a really good training camp. He improved. He worked on some of the things. He came out. He was running hard, finding the holes. I was really impressed with TDP based on how bad of a training camp he had as a rookie. And so those are the things that you look at evaluation process. Like, can this guy improve? Can he get better? Or is this just who he is?
Yep.
TDP showed he could get better. I just think he ran into a situation where he's the last guy. He's that fringe guy, and they needed to make some moves.
And allow me to throw a little bit of logic on those 2 third-round picks. I do believe at that time when the 49ers were selecting in the 3rd round and they were taking running backs, they were selecting running backs that they feel would have been great fits with Trey Lance. Right? Zone read, guys who can run inside.
More
Those were
gap
the
scheme.
right, more gap scheme, everything, all that stuff. Like again, it's not a poor evaluation of the player, but when your plans change and you find a quarterback in the last round who ends up opening up your offense and you're able to throw the football more, the
And you
idea
don't want stacked boxes, right?
right. And the idea that you had with TDP and Trey Sermon, which was supposed to go with Trey Lance, kind of goes out the window. They become players that do not fit you schematically now because of their deficiencies in the pass game, pass blocking, or understanding outside runs because they don't have the speed to get out there. So for me, I think the evaluation was spot on for what the 49ers were gearing up to do with Trey Lance. But eventually, you're going to fall out of favor when you are not a part of what this offense is now and what you can do as far as getting outside on outside zone, catching the football. That's the reason that these guys never stuck around, is based on what they thought they were going to have with Trey Lance. And when that changes, that's it now. Like, you just don't fit anymore. And now we also have Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, and by the way, Jordan Mason showed up and turned out to be a hell of a running back as
Yeah.
well. So, there's probably reasons why they failed. I mean, I remember, talking to MJD with Jordan at the combine, Maurice Jones-Drew, and we got onto the topic about Trey Sermon. He straight up called Trey Sermon trash. And like not like just messing around. Like, he was serious about it. He was like that. He didn't understand what the 49ers were doing by picking. So that's one guy's evaluation, right? That doesn't mean that he speaks for everyone. Obviously, MJD has a ton of success in the league. He was at the combine to be the guy on the mic talking about all the running backs. But he did not like Trey Sermon. And I remember that conversation, that Jordan and I were having with him. I was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
He liked Aaron Banks. He did not like Trey Sermon. I was like, oh man. And Trey Sermon has had a really hard time sticking around.
I think Sermon's on the practice squad in the Indy, or he might have been
second
cut.
String.
Well, now because Zach Moss.
Zach Moss.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. I think he was.
But he's not getting any run. Trust me,
No.
I have my eye on Sermon in Dynasty for the simple.
Oh my God! I was just about to say that. I have so many Sermon shares.
I drafted him Jason. All right, we're just on a tangent now. We're almost 2 hours. I don't care what we're talking about.
Go.
Dude. Okay, remember when Travis Etienne tore his ACL?
Yep.
Remember the first day of training camp, who took the very first handoff and was out there with the ones that Trey Sermon training camp?
Yeah.
It was Trey Sermon in front of Raheem Mostert. I think that day or the next day, Etienne tore his ACL in training camp.
You traded right for Sermon.
I drafted Etienne.
Sermon.
I straight up swap. I'm going to give you Etienne. I'm going to take Trey Sermon because I thought Trey Sermon was going to be the one based on that literal thing of the fact, because I was so high on Raheem Mostert that when Trey Sermon came out ahead of Mostert in training camp, I'm like, it's his job. They're literally giving the job to Trey Sermon, and obviously you see how successful backs can be in Kyle's offense. So I'm like, I need someone to play running back. ETN's not going to do it for me. I think Trey Sermon's going to take over because that's what Kyle just showed me. Dude, one of the worst trades I've ever made.
Oh no. All right, look, Brad. I mean, we all have them.
Appropriate reaction.
We all have them. We all have them, right?
It was Dynasty. So bad. I think about it to this day. That's why I watch him, because I'm like, gosh, if you can give me something, I need some kind of redemption from you, Sermon, because I got cooked. And I drafted him like in the early second in a lot of rounds too. So I used high draft capital to get him. I got burned by Sermon big time. And it wasn't because I evaluated him and I liked him.
He was the starting running back. He was the running back, the starting running back for the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah.
And I learned my lesson that I'm never doing that again.
It's funny. It's really funny to me too, because I have a ton of Sermon shares as well, just for that reason, right? Like I want the starting running back. The funniest thing is I would take Sermon early on, and then I would double back for Mitchell if it's a 4 round. Like if it's a 4 round, I double back for Mitchell just in case. And it happens, right? Like it definitely happens. I kind of wanted to like drop a nice dynasty story for you.
Oh, let's see it. Let's hear it.
So last season, I had Joe Burrow, I had Christian McCaffrey, and my team wasn't going anywhere, right? Like this team was not winning, right? So I traded Burrow in a Superflex league. I traded Burrow, I traded McCaffrey, and I just stockpiled picks. I want you to listen to this draft haul that I got that immediately has me right back in the playoffs.
Okay.
Jordan Addison, Anthony Richardson, Tank Dell, Devon Achane.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're all injured, but like Devon Achane, Rashee Rice, oh my God, man. Like literally, like that's your dynasty rebuild, like immediately, right? Like you make a move. Jordan Addison's a hooper. Tank Dell, before he broke his leg, was balling. Devon Achane, Anthony Richardson, when he was playing, he was dynasty gold as well too.
He's gonna be good.
Yeah, like really good. It's literally like that's how you do it. Like it hurts to send away Joe Burrow. It hurts to send away McCaffrey, right? Like you're looking and you're just like, I'm completely rebuilding, but your team already has the number 1 pick. I stockpiled my team with like a bunch of like first round, second round picks because guys were giving up first rounders for Joe Burrow, all of them. Yep. When you hit on a draft like that, it just it makes you feel good. Like you're just like, all right, yeah, like I'm good. No matter what. Tank Dell's out for the year. So is Richardson.
But you got some dogs.
I know that my team is going to be set for a while, and I still have all my picks for next season as well too, right? Like, and I already had like Rachaad White and Mostert and like and guys that like you can step in right now, Justin Fields and all these guys that give you fantasy stuff. But the dynasty discussion, this is why I prefer dynasty over redraft. It's if anybody wants to feel like a draft or GM, that's it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
You get to build your team. Like I got one team right now, my first dynasty team ever. It's basically my home league, drafted in 2017. I don't know what my point was, but it's so much more fun that way.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Let's get to this super chat. Gammon says, Jason, this means you now agree with the Moody pick, but I think you talked about it earlier.
But in the interest of being right and not getting it right, he's got to show me 3 years, and he's got to give me like Justin Tucker production before I can admit that shit.
I like it. I like
Yeah,
what
you know what? Look, I literally just gave a long-winded speech about me being wrong on things. It's just like, and I'm going to completely flip on that.
Back to the kicker.
But it comes back to this.
No.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely
we stand
on that.
10 toes down. We're standing on
business.
On business. Speaking on standing on business, Jason. I don't know who stood on business more. Was it Dre Greenlaw or was it Big Dom? Little Dom. Obviously, I'm not sure I've ever seen that situation. I know you guys all know what I'm talking about, where Dre Greenlaw kind of suplexes his guy to the ground. Dom comes off the field. We literally did a film breakdown of him coming off the field and then inserting himself in between the two players. And then that's when it started. Have you ever seen anything like that before? And kind of what's your overall just thought process on Dre's actions leading up to it, after it, thoughts on Dom, the whole situation?
The Philadelphia Eagles and maybe the city of Philadelphia love fictional characters and people that don't actually play sports more than anyone I've ever seen in the history of any football. The security guy is supposed to keep fans away from the Eagles. You are not. Blood thinks he's on the team, Brad. We'll get him
Dude,
next time.
you
Well,
just cooked the Eagles fan base so bad. I don't even know if you
I hate
understand.
to tell you, and I'm going to stand on business again. Rocky Balboa lost 23 fights. He's not a real fighter. That statue is stupid. I don't care
He
what people
lost
say.
23 fake fights.
He
is what
lost
you're telling me.
23 fictional fights. 23 of them. Philadelphia has a
Even when you can make your own story up, literally,
even when
he
you
still
and he
lost.
lost and hold on, and he lost in the first fight to Rocky. In Rocky, right? In Rocky, he lost the first fight, by the way. But you love that, right? Like you love that. Joe Frazier
It's an
is an
underdog
actual
story, man.
Joe Frazier's an actual boxer from Philadelphia who actually fought Muhammad Ali, and they have a statue of a character played by Sylvester Stallone. And there's nobody more fictional than Big Dom. And you know what's funny about all this? I have, I have the Dre Greenlaw, like, you got to chill out. Like, Devonta Smith is as skinny as me. He's not getting away from you, Dre Greenlaw. You don't have to pick him up and suplex him or hit him with the RKO. Just get him to the ground. You got it. But the Big Dom thing is everybody is, oh, well, he's a staple of this team. And it's like, oh, protect Big. No. Stand all the way on the other side. You don't play for the team. You are not a part of the team. You are not allowed to touch anybody at all, anything like that. Okay. It's just, I don't understand the audacity of being able to defend someone who's not a football player, coach, right? If it was a coach, I might be able to feel like I'd rather like I'd feel a little bit different about it, right? Like if it's
Yeah.
the defensive coordinator and he
If
does
it
something
was
like that,
a coach or a player, I
right?
think that's fair game because they're in and out of the sideline. They're supposed to be there.
But this like caping and like catching all the darts on the back for him is insane. And nobody loves fictional characters and people who are not a part of the team more than Philadelphia fans. I'll never understand it. I'll never understand it. I mean, in New York, let's see. What's a New York popular New York movie? Belly, right? Like
Ooh,
Buns
elaborate.
at Belly. We don't got in New York. We don't have a statue of DMX as Buns. Like, like I'll never understand. Like, we don't have a Nino Brown statue from New Jack City, right? Like, I'll never understand this idea of like, you can't touch this fictional character. We have to cape for someone who's not on the team. And then it's just so funny to me after the game that they're like, he's like, don't worry, AJ Brown, we'll get him next time. You're not on the team. You're not a coach. No one's going to get anyone next time. Less than it be you. So it's just stupid. Look, Dre Greenlaw, I think his reputation has kind of preceded himself with the personal foul penalties. So I think that's kind of what set that off in terms of like him picking up Devonta
I mean,
Smith.
you can't slam, and he knows that. Like he knows that.
No, he knows that. But also, Dre Greenlaw has a propensity for it. So that's why people, the referees are always kind of on go, right? Like they're on go with Dre. Always.
Everything he does is full tilt.
Yeah.
Very.
And Hendricks says he's our Draymond Green. He's Draymond Greenlaw. And it's what John, who's the person who makes our intro. John has that picture that you see floating around of Draymond Green's face on Dre Greenlaw's jersey. John made that. And John made that because of Sprint Right Option. And
Really?
Andrew called him Draymond Greenlaw. He called, and we were just like, you know what? It works. Like, just go ahead and do it. So if you see that, just make sure you give John his credit.
That edit's hecka funny, man.
Yeah, just make sure
floating around.
Just make sure you give John his credit. But for like, again, I've said a lot. I'm making fun of the Eagles because we still cooking them. But like, man, come on. A guy who is not a part of the team, a guy who is not a coach, who's not a former player, who is like just a big guy that's hanging around, and then for people to cape for him after all of that. If that had been the other way around, Brad Graham, let's just say that, right? Like if that had been the other way around and it was the boombox guy, like I think Andrew said, if it was the boombox guy, right? and the boombox guy comes off. And no, I didn't. FBI, you just caping and you getting cooked. Like I definitely didn't pick them to miss the playoffs last year. I picked them to win 13 games. I wish you would shut the hell up. But like for me, if it was the boombox guy and he came and he poked like Jalen Hurts in the eye, oh my god, man! Like the league would be losing it. So again, you don't play for the team. You're not on the team. Get out of here, man. Like for real. Like it's just this whole Big Dom thing has gone way too far, and it's really dumb. It's really dumb.
It has. Kyle talked about it today. Dre Greenlaw talked about it today. I expect something will happen. I don't think there can't. Just because they can't set a precedent for that, right? You can't have a I mean, I don't know. Would you consider security a part of football operations? I mean, if security is working really close with football ops, then yeah, that's a tough one because I'm trying to think about like how the 49ers like top security guys work, and there's definitely some overlapping, but there's no reason why he needs to be on the field or a part of that. And the whole reason why they're super, I think, strict with credentials and all those different types of things are to avoid these kinds of interactions
problems.
happening.
Yeah,
that's why they like. I mean, think about it, Jason. I know you saw that viral clip of Tyreek Hill's videographer getting suspended.
Hey, they took his credential away
because he hopped up and down as he ran into
No Fun League
to submit the video that they just got where the NFL plastered it literally everywhere. It was one of the most viral clips of the season. Was Tyreek Hill doing the backflip with his phone, and they took his credential away for that. I'm wondering if there's more to it, if they think it was like premeditated and that's why they did it. But he described it as, well, you were jumping on the sideline, that's why they did it. If that's the case, that's ridiculous. But can you imagine then what are the repercussions for a guy who gets a NFL player suspended in a game for physically putting his hands on him in the field of play? Yeah. It's not like Dre was 20 yards off the sideline in the middle of their bench and they had an altercation. Dom had to come onto the field and he inserted himself into that.
Of course he did.
When I look at it, I think there has to be some kind of repercussion, whether it's a suspension for the year or it's something. But they gotta send a message that, you know, that can't happen.
It just the idea that your security is to keep your fans away from the Eagles players, not the 49ers players from the Eagles. I think the only time that we've really seen that, and I want to bring up a name that's going to make Brad really, really like, you know, shudder. Remember when Josh Norman was getting into it with like Cliff Kingsbury? And it's like, dude, stop talking to the coach. But I will say this, at least Josh Norman was talking to the coach. He was talking to the head coach.
At least Josh Norman got some turnovers, you know. At least,
well, forget all that. I'm just talking about like at least he was talking to the head coach, someone who's actually involved in the game. Like, bro, really was standing outside the locker room, high-fiving everybody. We'll get him next time. We won't do anything. You are not a part of the team. Blood thinks he's on the team. That's insane to me, man. He's like literally the guy. What is it like that meme, right? Of the guy who is wearing the military outfit in Home Depot, and there's the guy behind him, and he's like,
"Oh, yeah."
Like no, you're not a part of the team.
Riding is crazy.
Yeah, it's insane for you to believe that because they gave you an Eagles like shirt and like you walk around and like people are like caping for you that you think you're on the team. You are not on the team. You're not a part of the organization aside from being like the security guy or whatever. I think like the assistant to the GM or something like that. Whatever, man. Please, it's insane that the only thing that we can talk about that from this game that is like funny about the Eagles is the fact that this Big Dom thing happened, which in my opinion makes it more embarrassing for the Philadelphia Eagles that this is what we're discussing, aside from the fact that you got embarrassed at home and you're not like that. But yet we're talking about Big Dom, Big Little Dom. Get out of here, man. Him and Rocky aren't real, bro. That's it. That's all I want to say. Like,
another fictional character.
him and Rocky are not real. Rocky's not a real boxer. Like, Sylvester Stallone is a real person, but you have a fictional character statue. Don't touch the fictional character. Don't run up the stairs. Who cares? Rocky's not real, and Apollo beat his ass.
Dude, 49er fans were mad pressed about that stuff this week. But that's hilarious.
What's funny to me is, real quick, and we talked about it last week. What's funny to me is in 2021, we took pictures in front of the Rocky statue, and they won.
They did the whole thing.
It's like, okay, maybe players actually dictate the game and not a fictional character who, like, I don't understand. Like, it's really funny to me. Oh my God, you touched the Rocky thing. We're cooked. What? What do you mean? He's not even going to be playing. He's not even real.
And guess what, Jason? Some fan went to the Rocky statue and he did what he did. He
10 toes, stand on business.
All the stuff over it. Bro, I'll never forget last year being in Philly, literal standoff between 49er fans and Eagles fans protecting the Rocky statue. You had dudes with like the megaphones, like chants, like, dude, it was crazy. This rivalry, though, what I think the biggest kind of takeaway from this game, and obviously we're kind of 1-1 in the new era of this rivalry. I wouldn't even consider that 2021 game a part of that. They got us that first time, and we definitely got them this time. But what it does feel like is this is going to be a big ticket matchup every single time it happens. I would be shocked to not see 49ers Eagles in prime time for the next couple of years from here on out.
100%. And speaking of fictional characters, like it's the same idea of like when people were upset that Halle Bailey was named Little Mermaid, and they're just like, how could you have her be Little Mermaid? She's a fictional character. She's not real, right? Like it's the same thing like with Spider-Man, right? Oh my God, Miles Morales is Spider-Man. It's not real. None of it's real. Like, it shouldn't ever like take precedent over like what is going on in reality. And that's the funniest part to me.
Keith Murphy says Nick Wright finally said the quiet part out loud today. He said if Purdy is elite, the Niners should walk to the Super Bowl. That has been his fear the whole time.
Again, another person, Nick Wright, and shout out to Keith, man, member of the Spicy Squad. Another person that is trying to find mental gymnastics and find a way to be right. And again, he's on a show which you go to and you watch it to be entertained. You don't go to be informed. And I want to make sure we make this very clear. When you watch First Take, when you watch First Things First, when you watch Speak, when you watch Skip and Shannon, or Skip Undisputed, when you watch all that, you're not watching that to be informed. You're watching that to be entertained. There are plenty of people who can inform you, that are boring. It's funny because the people that inform you are the ones that don't have the views. The people that actually can give you knowledge, right? The best show on ESPN's entire network regarding football is NFL Matchup, and they bury it at 3:30 in the morning Eastern time. And that's where you actually learn X's and O's, and you actually learn why certain plays work against certain defenses. And it's a masterful show. If you're going to stay up that late, maybe DVR it, whatever it is you do. But if you're watching Nick Wright to be informed, you're doing it wrong. If you're watching Stephen A. Smith to be informed, you're doing it wrong. You're watching it to be entertained. You're not watching it to be informed. There's plenty of guys that can inform you, and they are not going to have nearly as many views, or they're not going to be nearly as talked about as if, when Shannon Sharpe says, hey, Brock Purdy is not that guy, people get into a tizzy, right? Or Stephen A. Smith has like the Ravens and the Dolphins at like number 1, number 2, in their power rankings, and the 49ers have been rolling everybody. It's to get you upset. And I think the biggest thing that we learned during the time when the 49ers moved to 3 was nothing moves the needle for your ratings than talking about the San Francisco 49ers quarterback situation. Nothing moves the needle more than that at all, ever. It literally, all you have to do is give a hard statement about the San Francisco 49ers quarterback, and you will generate clicks. You will generate people that are going to watch your stuff, and you will generate engagement on social media. So for me, I don't really listen to that, Keith. I mean, just to be honest, and this is a long-winded way to say, I don't care what Nick Wright says. I don't really care about, like, there's very few guys that I go to that I get informed. I think JT O'Sullivan does a great job. I think there's plenty of people, like I think Chase Daniel does a great job of like breaking Kurt Warner. A lot of these guys do a great job of telling you and letting you inside the idea of what it's like to play quarterback. That there's no way that I'm going to sit there and listen to Nick Wright or like, or like Stephen A. Smith, or like, I don't want to just keep picking on him, like Stephen A. Smith or Shannon Sharp, or, and you know what's funny? I want to tie it back to this. I want to tie it back to this one more time. David Carr, former NFL quarterback. And I want to present this to you. David Carr, former NFL quarterback, said that he believes that the Philadelphia Eagles need to turn this thing over to Marcus Mariota because he can get through his reads better and distribute the football better than Jalen Hurts. And why I'm telling you this, Brad, is because every time I have an opinion that differs from NFL players, someone says, you think you know better than an NFL player. In this instant, you are damn right I know better than an NFL player. And David Carr, you are out of your rabbit-ass mind if you believe that Marcus Mariota is going to be able to distribute the football. It's almost like we didn't even watch all of the tape of Marcus Mariota last season, in which he couldn't hit guys running wide open. He could not see anything. And yet, just because a former NFL quarterback says it, you've got to stand on it. And when I say I disagree, you think you know better than an NFL player. In this instance, yes, I absolutely do know better than an NFL quarterback, and I will stand 10 toes in front of David Carr and tell him, you are dead ass wrong. Do you have CTE? Are there problems in your life? How did you get to this part? Oh my God. David Carr is saying that he believes that they should turn to Marcus Mariota over Jalen Hurts immediately. Takes you out of the conversation of me even caring one bit about what you have to say. I'll never understand how anyone could ever take that take seriously. It's insane.
It's like, I agree. Like, because if you're really trying to get into the true nuance of that thought process, it's flawed in more ways than just on the football field. Didn't they just pay Jalen like an insane amount of money? Like,
right.
He newly extended. So you're going to take your brand new investment, who you have touted as the face of your franchise, arguably one of the faces of the league, a guy who just took you to a Super Bowl, who played really well in that Super Bowl, and you're going to bench him, like, because you think Marcus Mariota is better at processing than he is? Like,
all right. So hold on. All right. So I'm glad you said that, because I think the crux of his argument was that he believes that Jalen Hurts is not fully healthy and that they should give him time to be healthy. But where you lose me, is when you said Marcus Mariota can process better and go 1, 2, 3 through the progressions better than Jalen Hurts. And I think that couldn't be farther from the truth.
He's effectively saying he can execute the offense better.
He can't. And if the crux of the argument was Jalen Hurts is not ready to play because you feel like they're not running enough with him, I think that's fair. I think that's 100% fair. But when you lose me is when you say Marcus Mariota can process, as if we didn't watch him in Atlanta get benched because he literally couldn't hit open receivers or process the field. That's the part where you lose me. And that's the part where sometimes less is more. Say that you want Marcus Mariota to be there and give Jalen Hurts some rest, but don't say that you believe that Marcus Mariota can process better, because it's objectively wrong. It's like objectively wrong. It's not even like up for nuance, and it's not up for debate. So that's kind of my argument. There's plenty of players that have awful takes, right, about football. Like, I think Shady McCoy is one of them, right? Like that, like he just says things, and I'm just like, oh my God, man, like that. Just because you played, I think we need to lend credence to your opinion a little bit more, but you can't take it as gold, because I've heard NFL football players say some of the worst things that anybody and that anybody could have like literally like come up with. So it's just funny to me, like the whole like, do you know more than an NFL player in this aspect? Yes, I do. I don't know, David Carr, what you were watching last year, but Marcus Mariota was awful. He got benched for Desmond Ridder, who's awful. I don't know what else needs to be said.
No, I think you said it all. And kind of to circle it back to the super chat of the whole Purdy is elite conversation. It's like, why is this a conversation? Why is this the next hurdle? Like, where people are like trying to take away from Brock. Well, is he an elite quarterback? Who cares? He's a second-year quarterback. that damn near went undrafted. Why are we so focused on crowning Brock Purdy an elite quarterback? Like, I think we had this conversation earlier in the year. Like, he was playing elite earlier in the beginning of the year, but I'm like, I'm not saying he's an elite quarterback. I'm saying he's playing at an elite rate by the metrics, by the tape, by everything that we're seeing. He looks like he's playing like an elite quarterback. But to earn the elite tag, you don't get that after 17 games, 18 games, 19 games. You get that from putting in work, year in, year out, consistent body of work for years before I'm going to start calling someone elite, unless they do something that we don't see, like Patrick Mahomes, and just take over the league by storm. There's outliers to that. And that's why that conversation and argument is flawed. Why are you trying to assign and even quantify Brock as being elite? He was Mr. Irrelevant. The whole league told you he's not elite. Like, why? So why now that he's playing really, really well is that, well, is he an elite quarterback? Well, is he top 5? Who gives a kid show?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. It's usually me that has to stop from cursing.
It was close. But who cares, right? It's like what really matters is him playing well within this scheme for this team for right now. And if he can build upon that and he can win Super Bowls and he can keep this up, we will call Brock Purdy elite one day, just like we call Drew Brees elite. But was Drew Brees elite right out the gate?
He was too small, Brad. He was too
He's
small.
too
Brad.
small.
He's too small.
The Chargers said, we got Phillip. We don't need you, Drew. Like, so that's why the conversation is flawed, and it's an engagement trap. It's an engagement trap for people who don't quantify or rationalize football the way it should be, because everyone's so hot takey, right? It would be great to call Brock elite, but I almost sound like broccoli. Squirrel. But but that's not the conversation that we need to be having. It's a bit of it's wasted air, but guess what? It gets everyone hyped up. Well, Brock is if Nick Wright comes on a show and these are all the reasons why Brock Purdy's not elite, it's like, why are you having the conversation to begin with? Like, evaluate him for what he's doing now. The elite comes with a body of work, and that's where it's just like the conversation's just like, it loses me sometimes. 100%. That's why I don't buy into it. I'm like, just whatever. Like, it's for reaction, and for all of our lovely viewers, engagement is the name of the game. Every time you guys comment in our chat, every time you like our videos, every time you sub to our channel,
it sends it to someone else.
That helps us so much
in the algorithm,
and it triggers the algorithm. Just like you tune into these guys and you comment, oh, you suck, you don't know what you're talking about. You're triggering the algorithm, and that is still engagement. And when you're pulling up numbers at the end of the year and you're showing your board of executives the numbers that you hit, do they care if, like John X537 says you're an idiot and don't know ball? Or do they care that he commented over 7,000 times over the course of a year on your videos telling you that?
That's the best part, is like, oh, Ponte sucks. Thanks for the engagement. Like, thank you. Like, if you really want me to go away, don't watch. If you want me to go away, don't watch. That's the best.
Just stop watching. Just like,
stop watching.
Well, we're not telling you to stop watching us.
I'm not telling you to stop watching, but I'm just saying, if you want me to go away, then don't watch.
Exactly. Don't tune in.
Don't watch.
It's very simple. Thought process.
Very, very simple. Yep.
Again, I think it comes natural to us because we're in it. And
you're being boring right now and rational. It's so boring. Why don't you say something that's like hot takey, right? Like, why don't you say something that's hot takey? Like that's what gets the people going. Like, logic and rationale, and even being able to call yourself out and be wrong. That's boring, man. Nobody wants to hear about that.
Right on cue. Keith Murphy says it's a hot take culture made for reaction, not fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. There
made for reaction. Yep.
We got you, Keith. Let's
shout
see.
out to Keith, man, member of the Spicy Squad. Let's go.
We got a couple more. Aaron Banks tape looks better than his PFF numbers. I might be interpreting the film wrong. How do you use stats correctly in context? Favorite data.
I am going to pass this off to our resident offensive lineman, but I love this
I feel very
discussion.
strongly about this.
Yeah, no, and I love this discussion because numbers are hashtag fits my narrative, right?
Mhm,
When
mhm.
PFF says something that I don't like or it doesn't match up with the film, PFF's not real. But when PFF says something that I also line up with and I want it to be part of my narrative, hashtag fits my narrative, right? So I think this is such an interesting discussion because of the fact that PFF's in bed, like with the NFL, and how much
Mhm.
like again, like when you watch Sunday Night Football, they talk about PFF 4 out of like whatever in their position,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So that's like right there in bed with them. But I'm so interested to hear your take on this because I think Aaron Banks was actually very good.
yeah. My advice to you, which is hard because, like, obviously I played offensive line, so I understand the nuance of offensive line, and there's a lot of really small details that go into it. When you look at these grades, they are the most fraudulent thing that I think I have ever seen in my life. My advice would be don't use the grades to determine an opinion on something. Just like you said, Gammon, I might be interpreting the film wrong. That is exactly the flaw in the grades in of itself, is that how can someone who doesn't know the responsibility of an offensive lineman on any given play understand the success or lack of success outside of just flat out getting beat? Because how remember that one clip that went viral of McGlinchey last year? Like, oh, look at McGlinchey standing out here doing nothing. And it was really Spencer Burford not picking someone up.
And again, like you have to kind of be looking for work.
He didn't
As
slide.
he
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 didn't
didn't yeah,
slide.
he wasn't looking for work.
He passed him off because McGlinchey's like, my guy's supposed to be there. His
Yep.
guy wasn't there. That guy gets the sack. Everyone's like, what's McGlinchey doing?
Yep.
I guarantee you, probably McGlinchey got a negative grade on that.
And
I bet you he got dinged for that.
that's that's always been the crux of the argument for me with the lineman play and the PFF grading is what's the responsibility? Who's got what? Do you understand scheme? Do you understand that maybe there's a miscommunication? Who's the person that should be dinged on all those things? That's why the PFF grades are not objective, they're subjective. And especially because they are an aggregate score of multiple people who have graded it. It's not one person, right? It's not just one person who's watching all the games and saying, this is what I've got. It is an aggregate score of all of the graders. Now, it's an imperfect science because people don't understand everything from scheme to what's supposed to be the throw, what's supposed to be the progression, right? Like there's a turnover worthy play. Okay, was it really like those type of things, right?
But those are
It's
easier to identify,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh, no, in my opinion, I feel like it is. But then there's sometimes where I'll watch. So the for instance, the Jacksonville game, in which Brock threw that pass to Brandon Ayuk, that Kyle called the worst decision, that he's ever made. Right.
Right. Right. Right. Right.
That wasn't a turnover worthy play. PFF didn't ding him for that. But that
Right.
if the secondary member gets his feet on the ground and is able to lift up at the right moment, it's either a PBU or worse, right? That's what's funny about like this whole thing. And it should be a point of talking when it comes to PFF about understanding whether they understand what's happening in front of them and whether how much of this stuff matters in terms of like gold, like just gold. Like it's just like, all right, well, they said he had a good game. He had a good game. Remember, what was it? I think Aaron Banks or was it Spencer Burford? One of them got a zero.
Zero.
A zero.
He didn't play. He didn't
Hey,
play.
how on earth? How on earth?
What is
I
that
understand.
supposed to teach you? What do you
Right.
learn from a zero grade? What
I
what
understand.
what
I understand the 20.9, whatever. Okay, so that just shows me it's a poor game. A zero? How did you get a zero? Like, and that's the part. And like when you watch it back, I can't rationalize in my mind how you came to the conclusion that it's a zero. So, for to Gammon's point a little bit more, trust your own eyes, right? If you think
Preach.
if you think a guy played well, don't go look at his PFF numbers, and if it doesn't show up the way that you thought that he had a bad game, just trust your own eyes. And you don't even have to
That's the
be a guy
best
who
advice. That's the
right.
best advice right
You
there.
don't even have to be a guy who understands scheme. You don't have to be a guy who understands slide protection, right? Like when I watch wide receivers, I don't have to understand what the route concept is. I can watch a guy beat somebody off the line and say he got beat and he won
Mhm.
that rep.
And you
That's
could
it.
tell why they won. Was it a rub? Was it straight off the line with did he hit him with a stutter, break inside?
Right.
Was there something else that happened? Like you can identify those types of things and just use your eyes.
Trust your own eyes. That's it. Always at the end of the day, there are data points that should be a part of your evaluation that you can use, but trust your own eyes, man. You know better than anybody, right? Like you
Absolutely.
understand the game just as well, and you can tell when a guy gets whipped on a block. You don't need a
Yeah,
PFF grade to tell you, man, he
exactly.
got beat there, right?
You
Like
know when an offensive lineman
loses a block,
gets
right? Or you know
exactly.
when a running back misses on a blitz pickup or misses on his block opportunity. That a PFF grade shouldn't be able to tell you that, and you don't have to know like super scheme, and you don't have to be one of those guys who's deep into X's and O's. That's a long-winded way to say that this is a give and take conversation. It's what you see from statistics and analytics should line up with what you see on the film. It shouldn't be the other way around.
Right. And what I'm telling you is every time that I've got like a perfect example was the guy telling me that Christian McCaffrey has the worst pass blocking grade out of any running back in the NFL that qualifies. And I'm literally every week I watch the protections because like I'm not just focused on the route concepts. I'm like reverse, I think, of a lot of people. I watch inside out. So I watch the protections, I see the way it plays out. Then I like go to the routes and the protect and the coverage and like work it that way. Um, and so I'm always watching Christian McCaffrey. I'm always watching Christian in blitz pickup. Dude is always where he needs to be, and he
Yep.
makes very, very difficult blocks. And he is a huge asset to the San Francisco 49ers on third down. And I said that, and he's like, well, he's the worst pass blocking running back in the NFL. I'm like, says who?
No.
The
That's
tape
why
says
he play,
you're an idiot
he
if you
plays
really
every
say
single
that.
down. He plays every single down because of the trust that he has, that Kyle Shanahan has on him to do everything.
Every week CMC shows up in pass protection. And
Always.
that's why those grades are fraudulent to me. I
Yep.
don't know what they're looking at. I don't know who's looking at it. Like if I can't trust 99% of the people right now who are paid to cover sports analyze the offensive line, am I supposed to believe the guy who's not getting paid trying to break in to sports through data mining and data collection and
And
attempting to grade something that they've never done?
I,
Why would I listen to that? Now,
and
PFF has a lot of good metrics. I use PFF
they
almost
do. No, no,
daily.
no. They have a ton of them. That's why it's give and take. We're not trying to like poo-poo the
It's
whole
the
system.
grades.
Yes, the grades are subjective. The grades are subjective.
Yes.
And like, all right, look,
Very subjective.
for the people that say, oh, if you've never played a meaningful down of football, you don't know. There are so many ways to educate yourself. Like
Yeah, I disagree with that.
right
I
over this shoulder, right over the shoulder, there's 1, 2, 3 books of concepts and how to understand them and why they're good again. You can learn. Anyone can learn. Why am I by myself? What happened? All right. Well, either way, right up there, there's a bunch of books that you can buy on Amazon at any time. There he is. What happened, Brad? You kicked yourself out?
got like this. So this is my mouse pad, and if you swipe it, it goes
It moves
back.
you out.
Kick me.
Yeah.
I just kicked myself out of the live.
So these books up here have given me such a good understanding of what you should be looking at, why this works against certain defenses and all those things. The best thing about analyzing football is always going to be this for me. It's endless. It's endless to learn the knowledge, right? Because there's so many wrinkles that come out year after year, right? You got the speed motion that the Dolphins have implemented that everybody's taking. You had, the time when Ronnie Brown was running Wildcat and it ran through the league. It's endless. There are endless ways to analyze this game. There's going to be an endless amount of information, and you never will learn it all. That is what has me so enamored with watching football, covering football, trying to learn about football, is because you never will learn it all. And I think for me, that's what is most important. And if the PFF guys just put a little bit more, you're ding him. He's got a 0. The thing
I didn't
is,
show up today.
the thing is I feel the guys who are doing the grading right? If they took a little bit more time to understand schemes, specifically team to team, especially what they want to run. Some are more zone, some are more gap scheme, all those things, right? Like the blocking schemes, all of those things, understanding route concepts and where guys are supposed to be, understanding coverages. If they just put a little bit more into that, then I think that's when the grades hold a little bit more credence, in my opinion. And that's when I will start to look at it more like the gospel. But the problem is, it's like it's simple things. Like if a guy has a whole shot thrown on him in between cover two, which means essentially you have the sinking cornerback and then you've got the overlapping safety, but there's a whole shot on it, and then you hit the cornerback for getting giving up the play. It's like I don't think you can give that to anybody. I think that's just a great throw, and you kind of just tip your cap. The main time that I really realized that things were a little bit messed up over there was, if you guys remember in 2020, and I know you don't want to remember the game that Richie James went crazy against the Green Bay Packers. Everyone had COVID. They weren't in the game, right? Like it all, like Trent, none of them, right? Okay. Jason Verrett was lined up in the slot over Marcus Valdez-Scantling, and it was a zone look, and Tarvarius Moore is right behind him, and he runs past Tarvarius Moore, and Jason Verrett plays his spot in the in zone in cover two, cover three, if I'm not mistaken, and PFF dings Jason Verrett for the touchdown. And it's like, wait a minute, that's not his responsibility. It's just a little bit more attention to detail when it comes to the ins and outs of scheme. What are you doing? What's happening on defense? What's happening on offense? Why is this working? Just a little bit more. You don't have to be, again, you're not going to know it all. And you're not going to be able to get guys who do know it all, but just a little bit more attention to detail when it comes to those things, I think would make these grades a lot more easier to digest.
Yeah, and on top of that, like I've watched offensive linemen who played in the league for 12 years break down tape of other guys. And what you hear consistently, and you hear it with the guys who played football as well, they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're guessing. They're like, this is what this looks like to me. And based on what I used to do and what we used to do with this team, these were the rules. These were the calls. I don't know their rules. I don't know exactly what they're trying to
That's why I love
accomplish.
JT O'Sullivan. JT O'Sullivan says, I don't know what they're coaching. This is kind of my idea. That's what makes his analysis so impressive.
That's why, like, I've never been a huge scheme guy, because at the end of the day, I'll never know what they're doing. I'm a big on individual player evaluation, and obviously can be dangerous, a little dangerous with some scheme stuff, but it's definitely not my forte. But honestly, it's like what you're looking at is, you know, the thing with the grades, and I think you're the one who brought the insight to it, is these are guys that are just trying to break in somehow, some way.
Yep.
Who knows who it is? Who knows what
Yep.
their qualifications are? Who
Yep.
knows? Who knows? Like, they could be some guy that's just like, hey, I want to cover football. PFF's really popular. How do I get my foot in the door?
Yeah.
Oh, I can be a data collector or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like, and
I
I
did
could do
data collection. I did data collection for PFF, and that's how I know I know the ins and outs of the grading. That's how I learned. I like they send you a manual of how it happens. And I was not even a grader. I was part of the data collection. So that's why I have at least that part of the insight in terms of how the grades come about. It's an aggregate score. It's an aggregate score. It's a combination of many people's scores, and then it's like it just averages out to what it is. Like PFF
Yeah.
telling you that like Fred Warner's 89.5, that shouldn't tell you that Fred Warner is a good football player. I think you already knew that. Like you knew that. Like it did. Like it's not hard to say, hey man, Fred Warner's hooping. Yeah, I could be a grader if that's the case. It's strange to me when the also ran players or the guys who are backups and things like that kind of get dinged for things that you can get away from if you understood exactly what was going on at that point.
Absolutely. Keith says, hey, Mariota kicked ass last year. Missed that one. That was
In
back
Atlanta.
a little bit.
In Atlanta.
Yeah. Yep.
In Atlanta. That was 2 years ago though, right? Like it wasn't last year. It was 2 years ago.
No, last year he started. He beat us.
Oh
Mariota
yeah, he
beat
did.
us
I
last
was at the
year.
game. I was just trying to
You're at
remember. I was at the game. Like
last
what the
year.
hell?
Yeah.
Oop, oop.
McKivitz or McGlinchey
Don't let the Denver Broncos mole
right now?
get out here talking crazy. I'll be honest with you, man.
Oh,
I watched the Denver game really closely because of who they were playing, and actually Denver's actually. We talked a lot of crap about Sean Payton. Denver's actually played very well, and oh my god, man, I can't believe I'm going to say this out my mouth. Russell Wilson's played well this year. God, I
Yes.
hate it. I
They
hate
they
it. I hate seeing
they
it.
really have they
They turned it around.
lost since they went 1-5?
Well, they lost to Houston. So the point I was trying to make, they just lost to Houston this week, and he threw the interception at the end of the game, which gave me so much joy, by the way. If you think that like I'm being objective and unbiased, no, I love watching Russell Wilson fail. I love watching Sean Payton fail. But I did watch that game, and my God, man, Will Anderson was taking Mike McGlinchey to the shed, man. Oh God. Oh no. Um,
Yeah, I didn't watch it, so I haven't watched any McGlinchey this year, but honestly, if you had to give me that, like, right now today, I'm taking McKivitz because
based on
McKivitz
contract.
is so cheap. What you're getting out of McKivitz for what you're paying for him is an immense value. The fact that he can be even if you just want to call him a serviceable tackle, right? You don't want to say he's good or he's great or elite, right? Throw around
Yeah.
those words. If you just want to say he's a serviceable tackle, you're getting a return on that play from him, which is crazy. You know, the 49ers do it all the time. They pinch their pennies on the O-line. I know Trent takes up a lot of those pennies, but you know, not a lot of guys get paid on that O-line for the 49ers, and they find a way to make it work. I mean, go back to when it was Persons at guard. Go back to when it was
Mike Persons.
Brunskill.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, go
I mentioned
back
Brunskill.
to uh, Garland coming in. You know, they got
Weston
Laken
Richburg.
Tomlinson for 5th round pick. They got him for dumb cheap.
Weston Richburg. He was the best center that
They
they've had.
they paid Weston. He was
But they
paid.
paid him, and he was the best center. But I also want to make sure that we give some love to Jake Brendel because Jake Brendel has been very good.
Yeah,
Oh, Melvin
and
said, I've seen and
he
met Jason Apate at the airport after the Falcons game. Hell yeah, Melvin. Hell yeah. And we probably sat there and commiserated about the loss, man. But shout out to you, man, for saying that. That's awesome.
But yeah, I would definitely take McKivitz right now. The value's just way too good, and I not surprised that I haven't been hearing the best things about McGlinchey because again, he's good for 2 to 3 just oofers on the day.
Yeah.
But
again, but a little bit to what you were saying earlier, right? 2 or 3 bad plays against, and Will Anderson's a very good pass rusher. 2 or 3 bad plays shouldn't take away the 42 other snaps that you played well, right? Like again, like but again, I'll be honest with you, Brad. I haven't watched Denver's tape. I'll tell you the teams that I keenly watch after the game's over and we get the tape and we get the folder with everybody's film. I've been watching Detroit. I've been loving what they're putting on tape. I think that's incredible. I've been watching Detroit. I've been watching the Jets because I hate myself and I just want to watch how bad the offense is, and it's almost like I've been watching Philly. I haven't watched Denver. I'll be honest with you, and I've watched the Chargers because I want to know. I want to know why. I want to know why, and it's not Brandon Staley because he doesn't call offense. I want to know why an offense that has Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, who's playing out of his mind this season, Austin Eckler, Gerald Everett, who's solid, right? You drafted Quentin Johnston. I want to know why your offense put up 6 points against the New England Patriots. And that's the part of again, being a football junkie and trying to watch. I'm just trying to figure out whose fault, what's going on. But I haven't watched Denver like that. I've watched their broadcast when it comes on Red Zone, and I know for a fact that Russell Wilson's actually played very good football this season. And trust me, it pains me to say that. It pains me to say that because I thought he was cooked, and Sean Payton's finally got him going. But my God, man, I don't know if we can take the 2 or 3 times with McGlinchey again. I think this is my way of copying out of the conversation and saying I don't have a strong opinion.
You're neither.
I don't have a strong opinion on Mike McGlinchey because I haven't watched him as much. I've watched the 49ers. I've watched the 49ers hole and hole, and I know everybody's plays, and I can kind of just commit it to memory. But I reserve judgment to have strong opinions on teams that I haven't watched as much. Just based on the idea that I don't know. But the overarching narrative surrounding Mike McGlinchey is it hasn't been good since he got there. And then when you couple that with his contract, I think it's even more of a problem, right? Because you paid him, you expect him to come in and step in. That's why this conversation that Jason brings up, shout out to Jason, shout out to all the Jasons, McKivitz or McGlinchey, and this is kind of like with Brock Purdy. What are you getting for what you're paying, right? Like you're paying McKivitz nothing, and then you expect McKivitz to give you returns like you're paying him $25 million, or you expect that
Should
from him.
lock up TJ Watt,
Right. Like you need baseline play from that. And the 49ers have been great at finding value at guys who they're not paying, and like right now, Brock Purdy has given them a return on investment with his draft capital and what they're paying him that is like 300 times fold. It is 300 times fold. This is if someone
he might be
else,
the best bargain in all of pro sport.
he doesn't even count towards the 49ers 53-man cap space. Are you like we're talking about a guy, we're talking about the betting favorite for the MVP, and we're talking about Brock Purdy not even counting to the 53. That's how little they pay him. It's insane.
You're arguing about if he's elite, he's got a roommate, for goodness sakes.
Well, I mean, he needs to. I mean, that $300,000 whatever deal is like cut in half, and $100,000, it doesn't even get you started living out there. So trust me, he definitely needs that. Yeah, but I think with what Jason's argument is, I think when you look at relative to the contract and how much it costs, I think the answer is McKivitz, because you're getting similar production to someone that is getting paid a ton of money. And I think that's where the argument
And it was the same argument. Like I remember when someone asked me the question when he was a free agent, and they said, should we re-sign McGlinchey? And I said, no. And they were like, whoa, wait, aren't you the guy like that's always like defending McGlinchey? And I was like, yeah, I am. But he's also going to get paid a lot of money. And I think the 49ers would be wise to get younger and cheaper at that position.
Yep.
That's why I went for Mike McGlinchey 2.0 in the draft in Freeland.
Oh no, we're not bringing that up again because of the 3rd round pick. Don't bring it up. Don't bring it up.
Oh, sorry.
At least he's played.
He
is. He's still starting at right tackle. He's been fine. Again, first year,
which is good for a 3rd round. If you're fine for a 3rd round pick offensive tackle, that's you're doing good, pal. You're going to keep going up.
It's fine. Colton McKivitz, if you're watching this, I don't care that they didn't draft another right tackle. You're doing fine. Like I want to give you an affirmation. I think you're doing fine. You are important. We value you.
Shout out Patrick.
Yeah, Patrick doing the affirmations. Oh my God, your episode with him was so good, dude. It was so
dude.
Good.
I'm not gonna lie. I've been waiting to go on that show. I was so glad he hit me up to come on. I was like, dude, bro, I love your show. I'm so glad you brought me on.
We're already off on tangents, and it's 2.5 hours. And if you're chilling here, then you might as well just listen to us. I believe wholeheartedly in my heart, and this isn't because Patrick is a dear friend of mine, that Sour Death Sam's channel on YouTube is the most overlooked, underrated, not paid attention to channel on this entire platform. His production value, his background, his
it's amazing.
Everything about it is incredible. So if anybody who's watching this, if you don't believe our football takes, if you don't believe anything I have to say, let me tell you that you need to subscribe to Sour Death Sam's YouTube channel and just enjoy like it's so much comedy. There you go. Throw it in there. It's so much comedy. It's great insight. He's beautiful to look at. I know people are gonna just be like, oh, pause, whatever. No.
Hey,
no pause. No pause. No, ayo.
No pause will go right through. That's a beautiful man.
And he's got such a structure around the show that the production value shouldn't be ignored, man. I guarantee you, Patrick's show will make you laugh, man. He's so good, man. Shout out to Sour Death Sam, man. I hope you guys click this and tag him, man, because as much as he is a good person, and a good friend, I think his YouTube channel is just in the same spot, like right there, man.
Tell when you get there, if you go sub, tell him that the State of the Franchise sent you. He needs more eyes on his content. Like,
yes, 100%. He doesn't want to do it anymore. He doesn't want to do it anymore because there isn't enough eyes on his content. And I told him that's insane.
I was listening to him at the beginning. You know how he kind of has you in the waiting room and he kind of has you on. I could, because I've been there too. Like you and I know this is a grind.
It's a grind.
Like, it does not come overnight. It takes so much consistency. It's so much effort. You get I mean, the burnout is real. Like, I
Yep.
can't tell you how many days I'm sprawled out. Like,
Hell
I don't
yeah.
want. I don't
You
want to work
sub.
today.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like,
You
I don't
know,
want to.
and what's funny is when I started my YouTube channel, it started with Andrew, right? And
Yeah.
we would literally do shows and they would end and we would have 29 views.
Yep.
That's not easy to look at. It's not. If there's no real love behind it, you will get frustrated very quickly. So
Yeah. If you're
when
doing it for affirmation,
yep,
like, you better get ready, pal, because you're in a whole world of hurt, especially being in our lane, I guess,
yep.
right? 49ers content. It
Hell
is
yeah. And
it's
I love
probably
all the
the most
subs.
oversaturated.
And it's crowded. It's
It's
crowded. Like
very
let's
crowded.
just let's just keep it a buck. It's crowded.
It's
But
very crowded.
but there were times when Andrew and I started, sprint right option, and we would look and we would have 31 views. And we would look at each other and because we love what we were doing, we just kept going.
Yeah,
And
you're
all that
vibing.
stuff is yeah, all that stuff is a part of the grind. Like if you don't love this, like if you don't love it, then you're not gonna get anywhere. Anybody who does anything for money, anybody who does anything for the clicks and the affirmation, they're not gonna go anywhere. What people gravitate to is the realness of the person and
Mhm,
they understand the love for all of it. And I
mhm.
think that's why no matter what, there's plenty of people that probably hate, when I get all crazy and I'm yelling, and I'm being spicy or whatever. I'm sure there are. But for every one, two, three, four, five of those people, there are 25, 30 people that are feeling those things and they don't have the outlet to get it out. So they can relate to that. It's more about being the person that people can relate to than it is someone who is just doing things for clicks and that, right? Like it's people want to see a reflection of themselves at times of the people that they're looking at,
Mhm,
right? Like they
that's
want it
fair.
like I have the same emotions you guys do. I'm a fan, right? Like Brad is much more even keeled than I am. But when I talk about it, I talk about it with passion. That's the New York
And
East Coast
it's
vibe, that's everything. But there are
I think
people
that's
that
why the
want to
state of the franchise has lasted for 3 freaking years now that
Yeah,
we've
I
been
can't
doing
believe
this.
that. I can't believe
That's
that. I
wild,
can't.
right?
That's insane. And we've gone through a bunch of stuff, like
Mhm.
and that's the part. It's like everyone sees the result, but they never see the grind.
Yeah.
Like Brad's channel is huge, and you think that he just started it and he just got to like I don't know. He's got like 800 million subscribers. Like I know, like it's like it's a bunch, but Have like have you noticed what it looked like when we were looking at like 100 subs maybe and maybe there was like 29 views? Like do you understand what it takes to continuously put yourself out there and keep going and keep like trying to set it up and like throw back to the garage setup? See, again, 10 toes. Like there are people that have watched, and that's the
I'll
other thing,
sweat
Brad.
my ass off in a garage
And that's
talking
the
to
other thing.
10 people online with Jordan
That's the other
Elliott,
thing, Brad.
and
That's
we're
the other
just
thing, Brad.
breaking
There
down
are
draft prospects.
there are people that are attached to being a part of something,
Yeah,
right? There's people that want to be a part, and then there's people that want to join. There's two different things.
yeah.
There's people that want to be a part of the grind and watch you and help you succeed, and then there's people that want to jump on after. And that's the two different things. So when you're able to get people that do things like that and watch you and continue to watch you grow,
Mhm.
those are the people that are going to stay with you the entire time. Those are the people like the Spicy Squad, dude, like our community, everything that we've built, everything, right? No matter what, like you don't have to like what I'm saying. You don't have to like how I present it. And that's fine. Like for every one or two that don't like it, there's 10 that do. Our community has grown so much. Moderators giving out, channel
Yeah,
memberships, guys that
dude.
are the same ones over and over in there. Like honestly, that's the stuff that when I'm tired when I don't feel like talking, when I feel like I don't want to talk about this team or I'm just like a little bit burnt out, that keeps me going.
Mhm.
And again, people want to be a part of the success, but they don't want to take part in the route to success. And
Yes.
that's the part that I think is the most humbling. The people that watched you from the beginning. Like I literally had someone tell me they started a YouTube channel because Andrew and I made Sprint Red Option podcast. Like something like that.
dope. That's
Yeah,
dope.
something like that doesn't it may not mean anything to you guys, and I get it, like everybody could just say, "Hey, listen, whatever, like, nobody cares about your podcast, nobody cares." Fine, fine, but to hear that someone listen to me yell and listen to Andrew just be handsome with his beard and everything and thought, "Hey, this is why I wanted to start." Like I think that's something that I feel like is important. So I know this has gotten like completely off the rails with 49ers stuff, but
Dude,
this is just
we're almost 3. This is by far our longest show ever. Like,
but
it's
all right,
not even up
should
to
we get
3.
back to cooking the Philadelphia Eagles again, man? It's just like
Well, it all started on giving Patrick his flowers, right? And the
yeah,
point being, like, he's in that grind mode. He's in that
yep,
grind mode,
yep,
and I could hear it in his voice when he was doing the open, and I was like, dude, I knew it. I was like, I've been you. I've
yep,
been there. I
yep,
remember how, dude, I got locked out of my account for a week in the middle of the season when I am like year 1, I'm dedicating all my time to my brand, the SF Niners, and building it out. No job. This is my job. My wife's working. I got 3 kids at the time. Like, I'm in a garage. Like, that was not a great setup. And like grinding and just
yeah,
thinking like I got my account clapped. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what is this working? It was in the middle of
yeah,
the season too. So I'd already gone like 8 months. I was
yeah,
like, I'm not seeing the success that I thought I would see. I was like, what the hell am I
yep,
doing? It honestly comes down to just having to stick through it, but also
yep,
reinventing yourself. Like,
yep,
you have to figure it out, and it's gonna take a long time. And if you don't love it, like, if you don't love it, you're going to burn out like a
yeah.
son of a gun. And I
Oh
know
yeah,
Patrick. I know Patrick. I know he loves it, and he wants to feel the affirmation in return. And anyone does who loves something and puts so much effort into it.
yep,
But it's like, I saw the comment earlier that I think Jesse said they see the shine, not the grind. And
yep,
you gotta understand, like, that's why I love the SDS, the sourdough squad. We got a
yep.
group. I see some of the same people in my lives every freaking day that come
Always.
to listen to me talk about football. Like, that's wild to me. Like,
Yep,
me, Jason, like,
yep.
I am like a
You're very
quiet,
reserved.
like,
You're very reserved. You're not
reserved.
like me. You know me. I'm loud and I'm
I'm the
I'm
opposite
obnoxious.
of
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
and that's why I
That's why
love
people love this.
talking with you, because you help kind of open that in me. And so
Mhm.
it's like it's a cool dynamic, but it takes grind. And
Yeah.
with the conversation that
Oh, you muted. Oh, I'm by myself. Oh, am I not by myself? Brad, are you back? Kind of to piggyback on. There we go. You're back.
what is
Are we back? Are
happening?
we back at McDonald's Wi-Fi time?
Talk,
Yes. You can't hear me?
dude. My my thing. I was in the middle of giving an awesome speech, and
Yep.
I don't know what's going on. My headphones, did they die?
I don't know, but I can hear you. I can hear you very well. You can't
Can
hear
you
me?
hear feedback?
I can't hear anything. I
All
can
right.
hear nothing but your beautiful voice.
Anyways, I don't know what I was saying,
No, what you
but
were saying is the same people over and over again and everything in terms of it's even again like it's almost cliche to say like if one person listens to you then it's all worth it because you never know like who you'll connect with, but being able to like set up an entire community and have that sort of following and have that sort of like sense of community, I think it's something that we never the kids are on Fortnite again.
see, this is throwback. This is from like
See,
3
but they
years
know, but
ago,
they
dude.
know, but they know. Well, Fortnite put out the OG map, so yeah, they probably are. But yeah, we
They haven't
started.
been on Fortnite for a while, dude.
Yeah,
Anyways, keep going.
let's pull up. No, pull up that. Yeah, this is the one right here. Ruben S. Man, thank you so much, and thank you to the both of you for all you do. The both of you plus Andrew and Steph are my therapy. I appreciate you guys. Thank you again, Ruben. That means a lot. Shout out to Andrew Pasquini. Shout out to Steph Sanchez. Stop playing.
That's another grinder that
Stop
doesn't
playing
get
with my
enough
homie.
love. Go
Stop
follow
playing.
Steph Sanchez
Stop
right
playing,
now.
man. Stop playing with Steph, man. I love Steph so much. Like she's like definitely like somebody who I consider family. But in speaking of the same way that we're talking about Patrick, and the same thing with Pasquini, and the same thing with Steph Sanchez, probably the three most underrated people that do this, right? The same thing with Andrew. I really don't like the fact that people were just like, I feel like Andrew sometimes feels like he's left out of like being a guest host. Y'all sleeping on Pasquini. Y'all sleeping
I
on
love Pasquini.
the bearded man who
Legend.
knows a ton about football, and y'all sleeping on Steph and her beautiful hair, man. Shout out to Gold Standard Podcast Network and shout out to Steph Sanchez, man. Like, stop playing with my people, man. We no matter if you agree or not, we come from a place of honesty. And I think, again, no matter what, you can disagree, you cannot. But it's still from a place of honesty, and it's up to you to enjoy the authenticity or say I don't want to listen to it. But man, stop playing with Andrew Pasquini and Steph Sanchez, man. Stop playing with them both, man. And Pasquini don't even got a YouTube channel, but that's my guy, man. I love him so much, man. We built so much from the ground up, man. Like, the idea that we have like a brand, like people know what Sprint Red Option is, I wouldn't have been able to do that without him. And I wouldn't have been able to, get Bully Ball off the ground with Rob, who, shout out to Rob too, without Steph, man. Without Steph. So yeah, man.
Yeah, shout out to Ruben. Appreciate the super chat. Appreciate the kind words, man. It really does mean a lot. Matt says Steph does have the hair.
Her hair's incredible, man.
legends.
I just don't understand like how she just like,
Hilarious.
oh, my hair's messed up.
That hair is fire.
Hop up out the bed and
oh no, now we got
nothing.
I got a Ponte spinning. Are you good? Are you there, Ponte?
I'm back. What you mean?
you
I
go.
feel like I'm here. I didn't go
There
anywhere.
you go. This
There
is
you go.
Steph's channel. If you guys want to go
Steph.
show some love,
100%. Go
Again,
show some love and sub to her as well. Yep, 100%.
grinder. Like,
Yo, Steph
grinder.
puts out like the I think it's like all the all 22 throws of like Brock and everything. That's like
Phenomenal,
you really,
dude. I can't wait till draft season. I can't wait to see what prospects she has on. She's probably already cooking up a ton. Like,
and she was on Puka. She was on Puka.
Was she?
Yeah. Oh, she was on Puka way early. Also, by the way, that dynasty team that I was telling you, I forgot Puka was one of the guys that I got as well too. That team is right.
Throw that in there, huh?
Addison Puka, Addison Puka, Achan, Tank Dell. Good God, man.
Reset this with Puka.
This man was cooking. No, but Steph was on Puka early on, very early on. And again, that's the best part about all the opinions is, whether I'm on him or Brad is you're gonna find people from the more content that you consume as long as you enjoy the content. And Steph, I can't wait to see Steph at the combine. I can't wait to see Brad at the combine again, man. Like, this is all gonna be fun. Probably see them before that because the 49ers are definitely gonna be playing in the playoffs. And yeah, I might gotta make some moves
back
soon.
out to Cali, baby. Let's see. Maybe is that a good natural
I think so.
ending?
2 hours 45
Longest
minutes.
in
Oh
the
God,
franchise
good
in our
God. Yeah, I
3-year
just
run.
my chest hurts. Yeah, good God. I want to lay down for a little bit.
Oh my goodness. This was a fun episode. I
Yep.
felt these vibes coming into it. Like, it's just like the week, right? There's so much to talk about. There's so much content. The vibes are immaculate right now surrounding the San Francisco 49ers, everything that they're doing. It makes our lives easier. I know your days are better when the 49ers are winning because we're all feeling it at the same time. So right now, San Francisco 49ers 2-0 in the Bird Gauntlet. They have not Eagles. They just took care of the Eagles. Seattle.
We didn't even
coming
talk
up.
about the Seahawks. Oh, by the way, the
We
San
didn't talk
Francisco
about
49ers are going to beat the living hell out of the Seattle Seahawks. Like, I'm just
Facts.
letting
At
you know.
home?
Yeah. Yeah, at home.
That's why I don't buy the they're gonna the letdown. I'm like, I don't know.
Lock it in. Lock it in.
I
Cowboys
don't see
hanging
that.
50 on the Niners, not even in Madden and not even in your best dream, Capritti. Never in your wildest dreams ever. The Dallas Cowboys are doing what the Dallas Cowboys normally do. They beat up on teams they're supposed to, and now you are in your bag believing that Dak Prescott's an MVP. Stop it. We have seen this movie 12 times. I don't watch the end of Scarface and think that Al Pacino's gonna make it out at the end. I know exactly what's gonna happen to him. He's gonna die and he's gonna get shot. Don't talk to me about the Dallas Cowboys. Stop talking to me about NFL teams that are not the San Francisco 49ers because they are not better than the San Francisco 49ers, not your Dallas Cowboys, not your Philadelphia Eagles, not your 85 Bears, not your undefeated Miami Dolphins. None of them. Stop playing with the 49ers, man. That's it, bro. We've seen this movie. Dallas ain't going nowhere. Stop it. I hope we run into them. I hope we run up on them again. But y'all got to make it there first. I don't know if y'all will.
Hey, respect to Cap Riddy for just the absolute delusional
troll comment
of being a Cowboy fan. I guess they only know one way. It's fine. It's fine. That's all right.
Damn, man, a lot of bars, man. Like I don't watch Scarface thinking that Al Pacino's gonna make it at the end. Like I know he's about to pass away, and like, do you think I'm watching the Dallas Cowboys and said, "Oh my God, the Dallas Cowboys are the team you need to watch out for"? I know how this movie ends. I've seen it for mad years, and it don't matter. Dak Prescott, Tony Romo, whatever, whoever their quarterback is. I've seen this movie. I know who it is. I know what's gonna happen. Stop it.
I think they forget that the key element in 49ers versus Cowboys is the 49ers and what the Cowboys are doing to teams not named the 49ers.
It's not a rivalry. Y'all got to win a game. It's not a rivalry. I love it. I'm so happy.
This is fire. This was a great episode. Shout out to everyone who sent a super chat. Shout out to everyone who commented. Shout out to everyone who liked on both of these videos. Sub to both channels. Make sure you go over to Jason's channel, smash that sub if you haven't. And of course, you know what time it is. It's cookie time. And I want to know, I want to hear from you. If you were here at the very start of this show and you made it all the way to almost the 3-hour mark, I want you to drop a cookie, raise your hand, say here, because you deserve a freaking medal.
Oh yeah,
through a 3-hour show, and we appreciate you guys. We thank you for everything, man.
100%. And it's not easy to sit here and listen to two guys like gloat about the 49ers just being better than the Philadelphia Eagles the entire time, man. But like, hey, we appreciate you guys, man. And again, what makes this fun and for us to be able to sit here for this long is, I love Brad Graham, and he, him and I could talk football with him all day. And that's literally like how we met. Like when we met, like everyone was like, "Oh, we're going out tonight." And Brad and I sat and we just talked ball like the entire time.
We didn't go out.
We did not go out. We did not go out. We sat in the Airbnb and we talked
showing you defensive line technique.
So, almost threw me out the window, all of that stuff, easy as possible. Right. But not only, is it easy to talk ball with him, but it's way better when you guys are involved, sending your comments and sending your thoughts and everything. It's
the chat
so
sets
much better
the tone for the lives.
100%, 100%. So we appreciate you guys on both channels. Appreciate that a lot.
Absolutely. Appreciate all you guys who watched the whole way through. And of course, whenever you hopped in, doesn't matter. But of course, for an extra long show, got to show some love. If you somehow got in here at the beginning and you stayed the whole time,
Gilligan's Island shows a 3-hour tour. A 3-hour tour. That's only because I'm wild old that I get that reference. Brad Graham.
All right. Any last parting words after that little jingle, Jason?
Nah, that's it. I mean, come on, man. Go watch the Gilligan Island theme
No, I know
song.
exactly. I know exactly
right,
Gilligan's Island.
No,
I'm not. Yeah, I know.
You're not great at like referencing like random pop.
I'm not like you. I'm not like you and Jordan.
That we're just rattling off like Wedding Crashers and Step Brothers around.
Legitimate skill. Every time I think of a reference, I can try to, my mind goes blank. It's the reverse effect.
Not me.
It's got to be organic, or else it's not happening.
Brad, I know you, and I know that you know that I know you, and I. No, but look, shout out to you guys, man. Appreciate it. Again, make sure you like the video on both channels, subscribe to both channels. Obviously, you're probably subscribed to Brad as well too. Check out Niners Nation if you want to see any of the writing that I do, which is all week going on. We had an article today about what team is the dangerous team in the NFC to the 49ers, so you could check that out. I wrote an article about Deebo Samuel, his splits when he's on the field and when he's off the field. And, as always, Sprint Red Option, all that stuff. Make sure that you're sub to Sour Def Sam and Steph. I wish Pasquini would start his YouTube channel, but yeah, I just want to make sure we get all that out there and show some love. Nah, I don't. I mean, I want him to. But I do think that it is a little bit of harrowing for people to like put themselves out there
Mhm.
in that fashion. Like it's not easy. So shout out to all you guys, man, and shout out to all you guys that make this fun, man. And it's really fun to talk about the 49ers right now because the 49ers are the best in the world, and the Philadelphia Eagles are sitting in front of a Rocky statue trying to get him to come alive and help them out because they need all the help in the world. So if you didn't think I was gonna get one more in before I did, then you are sorely mistaken and you don't know me.
Those are some great parting shots as we get out of here. State of the franchise, longest episode in State of the Franchise history, and it was a good one. Shout out to everyone in the chat per usual. Appreciate all you guys. I think that's it. We're out of here for now until next week as we talk about the San Francisco 49ers beating the Seahawks and then the big game coming on up.
Last comment.
Which one?
When I heard Brad say we signed Logan Paul, I pissed myself.
Yeah, so you know how I do all my update videos, bro. Yesterday when we signed Logan Ryan, I was doing my video and I had to restart it like 5 times because I kept saying Logan Paul. I was like, what is wrong with you? Say Logan Ryan, and I wasn't thinking about it, and I uploaded it. And everyone's like, we signed Logan Paul? Like, yep. And guess what?
Dude,
We're changing the naming rights of Levi Stadium to Prime. Get
dude,
ready for it.
The YouTube, these YouTube people need to be stopped. Now they're playing NFL football. My God.
Pretty soon we're going to have Logan Paul pay-per-view.
Logan
Paul versus Deebo Samuel. Who wins one-on-one?
Logan Paul is going to be lined up at safety.
Oh, he would get cooked too. What did he be competition?
Stomach. Oh my God, so good. All right, let's get out of here.
That's a great spot for us to get out of here.
Yep.
And courtesy of Logan Paul, State of the Franchise, we're out of here for now. Peace. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.